Hey, it's me, editor Cameron here. I don't uh, I couldn't get my camera working for this little pre-show disclaimer, but I don't want to take too much time. So what I'm just going to say is that this episode is 100% spoilers for 100% of the show, which is to be expected, but it kind of requires a general, if not full understanding of the seasons prior, because we will just like throw out names and events that we don't really explain. So if you're fine being kind of confused or you think you can pick it up as it goes along, then keep going. I would recommend you watch the show first and come back. Um, but yeah, I just wanted to come in and say it's a spoiler alert for everything right from the get-go, and that you should probably know a little bit about it going in if you hadn't seen it already. So yeah, also stay tuned towards the end, because Ben will have a little cameo solo by himself too, because he also wanted to give some more input on some of his opinions. So yeah, uh enjoy the video.
Hello and welcome to the What Did You Think podcast episode
29.
one. Is it 29?
Feels like it.
Really? Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
20 episode 29.
29.
All right. So, as you can tell by the title, it's Succession. All right. Now I know what you're thinking. Barry also ended. Spider-Verse is coming out soon. Well, let me just hold on, relax, okay? Buckle your seat. Well, no, you don't have to buckle them yet. At least get in the car. This week is obviously Succession. Next week will be our Barry episode, and then the week after that will be Spider-Man into the Spider-Verse.
And
That is the
sometime in
plan.
the future, I'll make that PowerPoint that we
Yes.
promised.
And honestly, I know everyone's been begging me for the PowerPoint video. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm really excited. Isaac asked me, he's like, "Well, what are you going to be doing?" I'm like, "I'm going to be like in the classroom." It's like a TED Talk type thing that Cameron has organized, and I'm just going to be in the crowd,
It's
also known
really
as
wonderful because all of the entertainment value of that episode is entirely on my shoulders. And
yeah. Well, I obviously like I will have questions and I will like contribute as
yeah,
much as I can. But obviously, that is just for you to tell me what's going on. But anyways,
yeah,
big movie news going on slash because that's our John our that's our field, because we got to
news.
stay up with it.
Yeah,
The reason we didn't upload last week is because Cameron and I were not at Cannes Film Festival in France.
right.
But we know who the winners are. Um, and all I'm gonna say is the Palme d'Or, which is like the best picture, quote unquote. Now, this does not mean anything, okay? Because last year, Triangle of Sadness won, and we know how much Cameron and I loved Triangle of Sadness. But this year was Anatomy of a Fall took home the Palme d'Or. It was the third woman to take that award, and then
Never even heard of that.
second place. Anatomy of a Fall is a courtroom drama. Apparently, a lot of people are loving it. And then second place was the Zone of Interest, which is a Holocaust drama.
Mm.
And apparently those are like really close. A lot like those are the two biggest movies everyone was talking about that they saw. Of course, Asteroid City and a bunch of them premiered, but all we care about, at least for
What in the
me,
world?
is
The
these two
main
movies.
actress for both of them was the same person.
Really
Unless I'm looking at this wrong. Yeah.
big week for her, I guess. Either way, keep your eyes out on those movies. But anyway, speaking of women, we've got Succession, where one of the
Yeah.
leads is a woman. Great segue.
Wow.
So if you don't know what Succession is, we'll do a quick recap. Well, if you don't know what Succession is, I don't know why you clicked on this episode, but if you're not planning on watching it, we'll give you a recap. Okay. So of like what's going on to season 4, because this is a season 4 review. Uh
It's a good
Season 1.
show. about
Open,
business.
yes. Opens up, Logan, breathing heavily, stands up out of bed.
We've already taken too
Obviously,
long.
I know. Logan Roy is this CEO, owner of this multi-billion, trillion, quadrillion dollar media franchise known as Waystar. Waystar has their own news company called ATN. Waystar has their own theme parks. They are known all around the world, and they are just like this huge, like Disney type thing. It's like they're insane for how much like they own. It's like whatever. And Logan's getting old, so of his four kids, which are Kendall, Roman, Shiv, and Connor, he has to choose a successor. Of course, if you just named a successor in the first episode, we wouldn't have 4 seasons. So through a
Uh,
lot of
I was just gonna say, over the course of 3 seasons and now four, Succession is debated, and I think that's the best recap we could do.
Yes, there's a lot of under the table deals, backstabs. We are not doing it justice by just like explaining it. If you want to watch it, I highly recommend it. And if you haven't,
It's exclusively streaming on Max.
on Max. Yes. Oh yeah, because HBO changed into Max while we were gone. A lot of stuff has happened.
Yeah.
Because the world knew that they had to get quality out there since we missed a week. So
Hmm.
yeah. Anyways, um,
Society crumbled when we were gone.
yeah. What let's get into the deal.
Yeah, I noticed
Yeah.
that you're doing a Kindle cosplay.
Yeah, you might be wondering why I'm not wearing my "What did you think" hat. That's because I possibly left it at the Japanese restaurant we ate at. So,
Really?
yeah, I haven't called them yet. So,
You should. But
let's make a deal and start this episode.
all right, so just like our Last of Us episode, we're gonna try our best to go episode by episode. This is right here is the spoiler warning. If you want a spoiler-free review, here it is. We liked it. And there you go. We got a lot of ground to cover, so we're trying to start pretty quickly. I
Right.
will say with this show, at least for me, some of the episodes do blend together. There are standouts, but I will probably get some things wrong and say something that happens in a different episode.
I will also reiterate and say, not even reiterate. I don't know what that word means. I just said it. Uh, I've seen every episode this season twice, so I'm more clear on what things have happened
All right.
individually. But of course, I
Then you
will.
can lead the charge when I get more confused.
Of course. I'll go ahead
But
and read the cast if you want to.
sure.
Okay. Um, Succession was created.
Awesome.
Yeah, no, Succession was created by Jesse Armstrong, and it stars Nicholas Braun, uh, who plays Greg, Brian Cox, who plays Logan, Kieran Culkin, who plays Roman. We have Matthew McFadden, who plays Tom, Alan Ruck, who plays Connor, Sarah Snook, who plays Shiv, and Jeremy Strong, who plays Kendall. Those are the main, the big bad, hungry people. Of course, this show is amazing with its like ensemble of cast. Uh,
Hmm.
Everyone in it is like incredibly good. Even like Adrian Brody, who was in one episode of season 3, is very good. So that being said, I can't name everybody because we are in this time frame, but I think we should just jump into it.
Episode
Um,
one, The
you want to
Monsters.
do you want to explain the series or the season finale of 3 because it kind of
Oh,
does
okay.
spark.
Yeah. So at the end of season three, the kids go and they're like, oh, let's band together as maybe a band of brothers and sister. That's another
Yeah,
HBO reference right there. They go together as a team for once, finally, and they're like, we're gonna take down our father. And so they go to do this vote that will like basically make his what he wants to do not happen. And when he gets there and when they do their final plan, he reveals bum 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 he went behind their back and got their mother to go against them. And so basically now the kids are they gotta at the start of season 4 they have to go their own way and try to build their own company or gain the company from their father.
season
uh,
3 ends with all of the kids low on the totem pole, backs against the wall, nothing they can do type thing. And I
mhm.
forgot to mention Alex Skarsgård is plays Matson, who is a guy that Logan Roy is selling his company
He's
to.
in talks to sell it too.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, so episode one, it kind of starts off there in California, trying to start their own company. I think episode one is mainly just them trying to figure out what do we do now. Like, you
Right.
know, they're making the decision of if we're going to start a new company, we go 100% for it, or do we try to pull out the rug from underneath their dad by acquiring Sandy and Stewie, I believe is what it is, right?
They're trying to acquire PGN,
Or Pierce, yeah.
a rival news organization. Basically, it's a bidding war between the kids and the father on who will get to take over this news, and whoever gets it has a lot of stuff, and they're able to move forward and stuff. Uh,
Right.
Good. It's good for them, whoever gets
Yeah.
it.
No, honestly, it's a pretty good introduction. This was the episode that we saw too, in Chicago
Live with
with
our bestest friends,
bestest friends
Karsten Runkel.
Karsten and Christian.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh,
Which, by the
um,
way, for those of you guys who tried to find that live episode and you didn't hear our expert commentary when they brought us on stage, no proof that that didn't happen. They didn't end up recording that episode through some technical difficulties, but it's all right. It's all
right.
right.
We'll forgive them. We only made
Mhm.
the 3 hour drive there and back
Honestly,
to
they're lost because they would have got a major boost from our
uh
appearance, but
you are so right. You are so right. No, I'm also realizing more that this looks more like a Daredevil cosplay than it
it's
does.
right in that line to where it's almost as nothing. But yeah.
Yeah. Well,
So
it,
what episode one, Ben?
it was me all along. Uh, I think episode one, obviously we have the bias of like watching it live with a bunch of people, but I mean, it does just do a great job at kind of obviously showing where everyone is. Like we have Tom and Greg because they just made an incredible move. Tom did. Tom made an incredible move to backstab his own wife.
Yep.
And we see him talking to Naomi, who's from Pierce, which is the part of PGN that they end up buying. And of course, like we get to explore the more like crumbling relationship of Tom and Shiv this season, which was like bound to happen. But
Well,
especially
you
this
say
episode is
you say crumbling. At this point in the series, it really feels like you can't get any worse, but
right. No,
it
that's true.
does.
And we see that Tom and Greg call themselves the
The disgusting
disgusting
brothers.
brothers.
Yeah.
Dude, this show is so good, and I'm cracking up at it. Connor is, he's still running for president. He's very serious about it, and
What's
he
important to him
has.
is that he has like 1% of due to some early polls, he has 1% of the country on his, is it 1% of the country or 1% of a state? Uh
I think it's 1% of the country because if it's the whole thing is like if it's less than with 1%, you're still in the conversation.
right. It's
That's
so
the whole
important to
thing.
him to stay at that 1%. Um I wonder if how that goes later on in the series, but
Who knows? But also they have a wedding coming up too that they're
mhm,
that Willa is planning, and of course they're fighting because Connor's wanting more of a patriotic wedding. And Willa doesn't.
yeah.
Poor Willa doesn't get anything she wants, uh, besides money,
Yeah.
and everyone wants money in the show, so that's a win. Um, Other than that, though, not a lot really happens. I think the biggest thing is that the kids acquire PGN by spending like $10 billion on it.
Yeah.
And they beat their dad, and their dad is like ticked at them. And is that I think
It's
that's
yeah, this is like being a first episode, it is laying the groundwork basically.
yeah. And I
Um
believe his birthday's coming up too. Logan's is. And I think that's the next episode, right? Or is that this
Probably.
episode?
I it wouldn't be this episode,
No, it was this episode.
would it?
Yes, because Greg takes a girl to one of the
Right,
rooms and Tom tricks him to say that there's security cameras.
right.
Yeah.
Uh yeah. So I have a feeling that we're not going to be able to go as in depth as we are with The Last of Us with these because while so much happens, it's like I don't know. There's not a video game to compare it to, I guess. So
Right. Yeah. Also,
uh
I feel like it's gonna become right now. It's like, you know, we're kind of walking through the show. I think we're gonna hit a point though where we come across an episode, and then we're gonna start like really over analyzing everything, which I'm
Right.
looking forward to. But
Yeah.
right now, there's nothing really to over analyze. The kids are just they made a move. Their dad's more angry, and their dad is like having his birthday party with like as you know, he's sitting at the table. It's a good like reflection shot of season one, but none of his family is there. I mean,
Mhm.
Greg's there, but I mean that's cut.
Yeah.
He doesn't even know what Greg's name is, you
Somehow in
know?
this show, Greg being there is just kind of a default, you know. He's everywhere.
And it's just Greg. It's just Greg.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then it kind of leads into episode 2, which is the rehearsal dinner for Connor's wedding.
Titled The Rehearsal.
Yes, not made by Nathan Fielder.
Mm-mm.
I know people were really wanting him in Succession.
Yeah.
No, and this episode, this is probably the most shaky I am on, like what happens in this
Yeah.
because I know that they go to the karaoke thing. I know they, but I can't remember
Here's the deal.
how.
Early in the series, I'm not going to know what it is, but I do remember how I felt at this time. And one of the best parts about the show Succession is you watch season 1 and you're like, wow, that was pretty good. You watch season 2, you're like, oh my word, this is fantastic. You watch season 3 and it's a constant climb in quality. It keeps getting better and better and better. Season 4, see episodes 1 and 2, I felt like it kind of staggered out and that it wasn't an exponential growth like it had been, and it had just kind of like leveled out a little bit and was as good as if not worse than the previous season, which looking back that might have been a bit harsh for there being 2 episodes out. It wasn't moving as quickly as other seasons had, and it felt lesser than to an extent.
Uh-huh.
um I will say though, looking back, this episode is more important for reasons we did not know at the time, which we'll get into in the next episode. But
Right.
I'd say the highlight of this episode is it is we still see all the kids working together, which is always nice, and the very few times we do see that throughout this show. The karaoke scene is the most important part because
Right.
the kids are there hanging out, trying to figure out their business strategy, and then this is the first time that they are reunited with their dad since he betrayed them in the previous season.
Mhm.
And the interaction there, it it seems initially to be like kind of, hey, the family's getting back together, having a actual serious talk for once, and like maybe it's even going kind of well, and then it, as all good things in this show end very 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 quickly, it devolves into insults and feelings getting hurt, and Logan telling them that they're not serious people, and it kind of leaves all of them speechless, and then he just
Mhm.
leaves with Carrie by his side. So, well, I don't remember the bulk of the episode. That scene
Yeah.
does leave an impact.
Right. It's like, and then you have Connor there too, because well, the whole thing is that these kids are so focused on business, 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 which is the show, and Logan's made it very apparent that he does put business honestly in front of his family. I would say, um, obviously he cuts his kids out of a lot of stuff,
Yeah,
but I mean, for the simple sake that these kids like Connor's getting married, their brother's getting married, and the fact that they show up to his bachelor party, like slash rehearsal dinner, they see Willa leave in tears, or like just she's having like an anxiety attack, and uh, basically, you know, Roman is the only one they're really trying to comfort Connor, but the two other siblings, Shiv and Kendall, are bickering back and forth on if they need to acquire Sandy and Stewie or not. And because that's right, because as they're walking into the bar, Stewie is there at the car and he's talking to Kendall, about a few things. And, whatever. Connor is upset. Connor's like, let's go to Carrie. They're at a normal person bar. They're like, we should get normal people drinks or whatever. Like I want to drink out of a bottle.
yeah, yeah. Connor like trying to connect with the people of America.
But they go to the karaoke club thing, and that's when Logan shows up. And, you know, Connor realizes that he's not loved, and even says that it's like a superpower,
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't need love, and that's sad. Poor Connor.
Dude,
Connor deserves so much more. Well,
Connor is always in the background. Like when you watch the show, you see Connor on all the posters and like he's a main character, but he's so like B plot. He's so like second to everything else that's going on. And that's part of it because he shouldn't be. Part of it is he's like kind of trying to stay out of it, but part of it is his family makes almost zero effort to even like interact with him. There are so many times throughout the series, especially in this season, where the three main siblings, they're like, "Oh, let's get all the siblings in on this," and then it's just them three, and then they like Connor's and just not there, and that's
and not
especially sad when you realize, like, when you remember what he was talking about in season 3 about how he basically raised them because his dad and his mom were never there.
right.
So after all that, and he just gets nothing from in return, it's sad.
Hmm. Yeah, and I mean, it's sad. Also, though, Connor is a bad person. All the Roys are
No, there's
bad
no good
people.
person in this show, but what's great
Yeah,
about
I
it is
mean,
it still
besides like the
makes you
random
feel
bystander that just walks by.
right. It still
But
makes you feel bad about these people when a worse
yeah,
show would make you be disinterested because you don't care.
hmm no, but the episode, not that like heavy hitting, not that hard. But this next episode, however, is the complete opposite.
This is when it
Uh,
starts to pick back up again.
this is like this is the big turning point in what makes season 4, in my opinion, like the best season. Like
Yeah.
everything that happens after this, and including this episode, is like amazing, and how it just affects everything. It's so good. But season 3 is, or episode 3 is Connor's wedding, after the bachelor's party slash rehearsal dinner, you know excuse me, after that, Connor gets his way once again, and they're having a patriotic wedding on a boat. It's covered in like American flags and stuff, just like goofball stuff for a Connor wedding.
Right.
And it starts off with oh, we forgot to mention, season episode 2 ends with Roman visiting his dad secretly, saying basically Roman worked his way back in, and his dad's just gonna use him, and his dad needs him to fire Jerry, because
Hmm.
Jerry right now, is she the C no, she's not the CEO, but she's
She,
like,
she's just a big person in the company.
yeah. um I can't quite remember, but either way, Tom has to kill, not actually kill, but Tom has to fire, what
No,
was her name?
Roman. Wait, Tom has to fire somebody.
Tom has to fire the girl that showed up. Oh yeah, because Logan makes his whole pirate speech in episode 2.
I don't exactly remember what you're talking about. I
She's she's the news. She always handled all
Oh,
the
right, right, right. The
election stuff.
news lady. Yeah.
I can't remember her.
I don't remember her name, but
Either way,
just
Roman has to fire Jerry, which obviously he doesn't want to because he still likes Jerry, and Tom has to fire somebody that I'm forgetting the name of right now. But
mhm.
whatever. And Tom calls Roman because, I mean, since all the other siblings left, Logan is just kind of like, kind of going to Tom about a lot of these things and telling him to, do the dirty work for him, when it's against like his kids. So Tom's in contact with Rome. He's like, hey, blah, blah, blah. Have you fired Jerry yet? Have you fired Jerry yet? He's like, no, haven't yet. It sucks. And we see, if you would ask me then, Roman has a good little few lines when he's on the phone with Tom, or no, he's leaving a voicemail to his dad because his dad didn't answer, because his dad is on a plane to go to Sweden to talk to Matson about the deal. And uh basically Roman, what I would say was his most vulnerable point and the most emotion he showed, when he really dislikes what his dad's doing to him, and it feels like, it's just him being mean type thing.
Mhm.
Uh and then Tom calls again once all the siblings are together and they're just talking, and you're thinking again like, oh, he's having him like, he's gonna ask if he fired Jerry yet, but then delivers the news that his dad is getting chest compressions while in this jet on the way to Sweden. Now, Cameron, what
Yes.
did you think was happening? Like, what
Well,
was
this episode is so well edited and shot and everything, where all the information we have is exactly the information that the kids have. So the uncertainty and the worry and the panic and even the denial that they go through, you the viewer also goes through as well. And
right?
so at this point, obviously your initial reaction is to be like, oh, that's bad, what's going to happen? And but you also think, what is the possibility this is a play? Because the whole series has conditioned you. Nothing is
Mhm.
just what it is. There's always multiple levels to something. And so even though you know deep down this is real, there's a part of you that up until they confirm it, like towards the end of the episode, how real is it, kind of thing.
Right. And even when they do confirm that Logan is dead, it's like at least I was in Roman's shoes where I feel like there's no way that's true. Like
Hmm.
Logan is this titan, he is this like monument. Like monuments can't get destroyed, and it's like crazy. Monuments can't die, that's what I meant to say. And I just kind of refused the fact that he died until like the next episode. And it's just like even when I saw the body bag, I was like, no way. He's just, he's just having a little episode. That's it. But no, it's crazy. And to see how each kid plays off of this and how they react to it.
This,
Roman's, you
go
know,
ahead.
very upset,
Uh-huh.
obviously, but in denial. It's not true. Shiv is very sad, uh, and she's like, I need to talk to him type thing. And Ken's like obviously pretty sad and upset, but business stays in this business mindset.
He
And
is definitely primarily upset and primarily focusing on the death thing, but he still keeps his foot in the business world more than anyone else really does.
right.
And
And
that,
then no, go ahead.
I
My
was
bad.
just think this episode is the first time, there are a couple times, like especially the finale of season 3, but really this episode onward marks a point in the series where the double talk kind of begins to fade away a little bit. From this point
Mhm.
on, people start to just say what they mean. And
Yeah.
this is like the first time in the show we get to see these characters not just as they are by through like an analytical sense, but as they are just because they are acting the way that they are, you know.
Mhm. Yeah, and I don't know, but and it took him forever to get Connor and to tell him this because
Yeah,
it's on his wedding day. It's like they're not married yet, but they finally go tell Connor. And the reason they tell Connor is because they forgot he existed until they saw him.
yeah,
It's like, or like they saw him down the hall. I'm yelling the whole time. I'm like, tell Connor. Someone needs to tell Connor. Someone needs to tell Connor.
yeah.
And
There's
they
a
finally do.
oh you I feel like I keep interrupting you, I'm sorry.
No, I feel like I'm talking too much.
um there's a real this is like a fantastic episode on so many fronts, just like not just the writing and just like what happens, but the way they show it and stuff. I watched a interview, I forget what channel does those like scene breakdown things, but Mark Mylod or Malloyd or whatever you say, he's the director of most of the episodes this season, if not all of them. And he broke down this episode, and it is, you already, when you're watching it, you realize how good these actors are, but when it gets broken down what they actually did, it's really impressive. Because first of all, there's a 30-minute one take in this, and not one take in the traditional sense where it's one fluid camera movement. There are multiple camera angles and cameramen walking around, but all the footage comes from one take that's like
Yeah.
30 minutes long. And they said that Mark, I'm just going to call him Mark, I don't know how to pronounce his last name.
Yeah.
Mark, he said that they wanted to give the actors as little direction as possible for this scene because they wanted it to be natural. So they knew the script, but they needed to act how they wanted it to do. But at the same time, the crew had places they wanted the actors to be when they were giving their performances. And so the way they did it is they would strategically place extras around the set so that the actors would be like, I don't want to talk about my father dying around other people. So they naturally use their like, they would, in the mind of the characters, where would my character stand at this moment away from people? And they ended up where the director wanted them to be standing.
Wow, that's crazy.
There are extras on the set that are not in the show, that you don't see in the show, because they were just trying to influence where the actors stand. And
Weird.
that is amazing. And what's also
It
amazing is
is.
there's one part in the episode where Kendall has to go out into the crowd and find Shiv. They did not tell Jeremy Strong where Shiv was. He was actually looking for her in that scene.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
That is awesome. No,
So
and honestly, that's like such excellence done by these actors and
yeah,
actresses. It's like, also, I can't imagine being in this terrible depressive mindset for like the like 30 constant minutes,
yeah.
you know? Because like typically with scenes, I mean, don't get me wrong, I've never acted before. I'm a failing actor, unless the bear wants to call me back. But which they're definitely done filming. um, but no, it's like the 30 constant minutes and the little direction, I think, adds on to the panic and stress of the situation too. Because like watching them, Roman is pretty much stationary the whole episode.
Yeah.
When he finds out the news, it like cripples him, like shuts down. Um, and like, uh Jeremy Strong is like crazy. He is
Yeah.
insane. We'll get into this later, but we called it. He definitely drank that stuff. Uh, that
Oh,
included
yeah.
like
Yeah.
and they said like even the spit and everything he drank. So, which we all called because that's something insane he would do. And yeah, Jeremy Strong is amazing. Um, anyways,
Yeah,
yeah,
this episode
that
is
is
just
crazy.
it's just a perfect combination of just the cast and the crew working together to make the best possible thing. And it is palpable when you're watching the episode just how shocking this episode is, but also just how expertly done it is.
Right, right. Dude, it's just like so impressive. That
Yeah.
is that is good directing.
Yeah.
Honestly, it just letting your actors do their thing. Um, that's some trust though. Also, that's like
Yeah.
nuts. That's like crazy. Well, either way, they find out their dad died. Uh, and Roman did end up firing Jerry right before everything happened. Uh, and but Logan's dead now. So everything that like happened. So Roman didn't fire Jerry, but he said like your position's going to be terminated when my dad gets back, type thing. Um, because his dad wants her fired. Well, his dad's dead, so that's a good news for Jerry moment.
Yeah.
She keeps her job, but like so after a few moments, the kids kind of have to collect themselves and talk about what do we do, because as soon as the plane lands, everything's gonna die
The public
and
finds
just
out. Yeah.
go crazy. And their stock numbers just going to drop completely. So they need to figure out a solution to this unfixable problem. And after talking to Hugo and several other people, they say, we're going to come clean. Their dad did, and that, more news will follow.
There's an interesting
And
line from Kendall
yeah.
in this episode when they're trying to strategize how to handle this and how the public will find out. Is Kendall says, "What we do today will forever be what we did the day our dad died." And uh the reason he said like that, I just think that's such an interesting line, because like when they're at that point, Shiv brings up, "What if we just tell the pilots to circle in the air while we figure out what happens, while we figure out what to do, because once he lands, people know." And once Kendall says that, people realize like, okay, we do that for 5 extra minutes, and then people find out we did that. So
Yeah.
there really is, there's this ticking time bomb of the plane landing that they have to figure out how to handle it.
All on Connor's wedding.
Yeah.
It's like Even the episode that I thought was going to be about him, it's not about him at all.
Yeah.
And it's so funny. And I mean, him and Willa decide to not do the whole theatric of the wedding and just get married
They get married anyway, though.
individually,
Yeah.
like with just like witnesses essentially, because their siblings weren't there. They had to make a move about their dad. But no, it's just terrible. The plane lands. Roman goes to see the dad. And what I enjoy too is us not seeing him. Because once Logan dies, as soon as the words come out that Logan is possibly dead, we do not see a full image of Logan at all, excluding like flashbacks and stuff
Mhm.
like that. But we never see a lifeless Brian Cox. That'd be bad because he would be actually dead. But we don't see like a lifeless Logan. It's always from like a
I
certain angle
think,
of maybe his legs or something like that.
yeah, I
But
think there's one shot where we see him getting chest compressions and we see his
but
face,
I don't.
but
But it's not like a full on
it's
like
not,
it's
yeah.
so congested and zoomed though, along with like the handheld. And honestly, I tell you what, man, you guys trash on the cinematography of this show, and I think the handheld is so perfect because I think it's such a personal shot, and I think it just makes every move so much better with everything. But
Yeah.
when go ahead,
I'm interrupting you a lot. So
I'll
you go
say it
ahead.
then.
Yeah.
Roman goes to the plane and he goes like do whatever. But Kendall doesn't. Kendall's staying outside, and the shot is through Kendall's POV almost of him watching Roman from a distance go up to the plane. And like we see the body bag or whatever, and that's like I mean, and then they check their phones and they see that their stock is plummeting like crazy because
Yeah.
the leader's dead.
Hmm. I was just going to speak on the cinematography since you mentioned it. Um, I have said in the past that I dislike, like, not even like actually just straight up dislike the cinematography in the show. And as far as season one and season two is concerned, that is true. I genuinely think the cinematography is bad in those seasons. I understand the point of what they're trying to do. I think it wasn't done the best in those seasons, but seasons three and then especially season four managed to get the feeling that they were going for, but also not make it look bad, in my opinion. And I think that's where they actually managed to hit that style correctly. So I will say I did think it was bad, but I do think that it kind of finds itself in
Well,
the later half.
I still think you're wrong.
That's
Yeah.
okay. I just wanted to explain myself.
No, and thank you for that. We respect all answers here. Uh Comment below if you want Cameron to die. Uh
Well,
or don't. Probably don't do that actually. That's not good. Anyways, the next episode is called Honeymoon States, and this is like every episode. Actually, let me check this on IMDb. Hold on. I was checking IMDb because I go back and forth on which show I like more, this or Breaking Bad. And Breaking Bad is perfect. All right. I think Succession is almost there. I don't know, maybe check with me literally in like a year or something like that. But right now, for my like favorite shows, it's like Succession. No, I mean it's Breaking Bad and Succession. But find myself jumping between them a lot. Either way, though, Breaking Bad season 5. After I want to say like episode 2 or 3, the rest of the episodes are rated 9.0 or higher. Same exact thing with this, except for one episode, which is episode 6. But everything after episode 7 or episode 2 is all 9.0 ratings or higher. And also, I forgot to mention, I don't know when this happens, but we find out, I think it's Connor's wedding. I think we find out Shiv is pregnant. Um,
oh yeah, and I forgot about that because it's just so overshadowed by everything that happens.
yeah.
But I
Shiv
forgot about it
is
when I initially watched it. Uh,
Shiv is preggers and hasn't told anybody. She's keeping that a secret. But yeah, so the next episode is Honeymoon States. And
Which,
basically
by the
the
way, I
whole
love the naming of the episodes because they kind of named it in preparation for if the episode names got leaked before the show, because the episode after Connor's wedding is Honeymoon States instead of Logan dead, the episode following.
Logan dead, the episode. Yes. Well, also honeymoon. I think it's just like a joke though, because Willa and Connor's talking about like how he needs to go on tour for these like different states
Yeah,
of the Midwest for like political rallies and stuff. But I like your idea better.
I think we're both right.
Yeah. Either way, so the Waster team has to discuss what are we going to do? We just lost the head of this company, you know, so they have no idea. But Roman, Kendall, Shiv, they all go back to Logan's mansion apartment thing, um, and to discuss with everybody. And they walk in, and we see the lovely Marcia that we haven't seen, and it feels like forever.
Yeah,
And we miss Marcia. Marcia's there. Marcia's sad. Yeah,
yeah.
she
Well,
said some lies, and she was like, "We text every night or
I don't
whatever."
know if
So
that's true or not.
I don't think that's true. I think it was her saying that so that way, like, she's in the discussion of what do we do with all this stuff type thing.
Yeah,
So
I don't know.
the place goes to her, and immediately Connor is like, "I'll buy this for you from you for $30 million or something like that." She's like, "Deal." So she made her money like immediately. And I mean, it makes sense Connor would buy it. It's just a Connor thing to do.
And he did just
Um,
get married.
yeah. So while he's doing that, we also see Kendall is walking in, and he's getting ready to get on the elevator, and he sees Hugo kind of aggravated on a phone call. He goes upstairs, whatever, and he sees the siblings, and they're all talking like, "Well, what are we gonna do? What do you do when the biggest influencer of like media dies? That's also your dad." So they're discussing like, well, we don't want Carl to take it or Frank, because
Is
essentially it's just going to go to one of them, one of
Yeah,
the three oldies, essentially. Respectfully,
right.
think that.
Is this the episode where they find the piece of paper?
Yes.
Okay.
So
They're trying to decide who should at least
yeah,
temporarily fill the role of CEO
until they
until
make
they
the
find a
deal.
permanent decision. And when they're going through Logan's stuff, they find a piece of paper with that Logan made that said that Kindle should be the CEO, but there's a mark on it that is like you can't, because it's how it's written, they can't tell if it was an underline or if it was crossing out his name. And so the whole episode, Kendall's like, but the piece of paper
And
uh
also written on the piece of paper,
in
just
pencil.
on the bottom somewhere in pencil, is Gregory Hirsch, and
Yeah,
it's just that.
it's just his name.
So Greg's there, and they're like, "We have to get Greg in here," and Greg's like, "I mean, it seems to me that like maybe he."
Dude,
Oh,
I love
and
Greg so
I
much.
wanted it so much. I wanted it.
You held
Um,
on to that for the whole show.
I did. I was like, "Oh yes, Greg's gonna win." Um, uh, if you don't love Greg, I think you're watching the show wrong.
Yeah.
Um, no, I'm kidding. But obviously, like Shiv and everybody, they're still like, this is a day after. So I think also from here, if I'm not mistaken, I think the rest of the show takes place in the span of like a week. If that. I think it's kind of unclear when their dad dies. But I know when we get to a certain point, each episode is like a day. So either way, you have all of the kids, discussing what are we gonna do. They don't want the old people to take it, um, you know, but and because they still want to keep it into the family. Roman's wanting to keep it into the family for the simple sake that it's family. And I think the way I view it is that Roman views Waystar and like ATN as his dad, the last thing of his dad. So of course Roman wants to keep it, and Kendall wants to keep it because Kendall wants to be the like CEO. He wants to be in charge. And Shiv, of course, wants it, but the two kids decide a no against Shiv, and then what if they do the CE Bros thing of Kendall and Roman and they take
Kind of like
over?
us, CE Bros of
Kind of
the
like
What Did You
us.
Think podcast.
Yeah. Not at all. But and they felt like so they basically Shiv reluctantly agrees to it. They said they promised that they'll keep Shiv in on everything. Empty promises are made all the time in the
Yep.
show.
It was
And
almost immediately done.
almost no, it really was like within the episode, Kendall does something behind Roman's back, even who is this other CE bro. So
Like us.
they mention it they mention it to the old people, and they actually kind of like the idea for the simple sake that it'll sound better that the two kids, like, it looks better on paper too, that the two
Mhm.
sons are working together and teaming up to take over this company again, and all for like, it'll save their stock price, whatever. So they team up. Greg doesn't get it. And
No.
Shiv is like upset, rightfully so. And while she's coming downstairs, Tom is there. And Tom pulls a Mr. Darcy. And Mr. Darcy from Pride and Prejudice. Have you seen that?
No.
Okay. Well,
He's in it though, isn't he?
he's Mr. Darcy, the
Is
main
he Pride
character.
or Prejudice?
He's and
Okay.
Uh, but he's doing the infinite Tom Riz, um, or the Wams Games is Riz, and uh uh he's like like calming Shiv, and like, it's like kind of sweet, but I had a theory going into this that they were gonna get back together. Cameron didn't, and I was like, oh guys, they're getting back together. Cameron's like, no, they're not, no, they're not. I'm like, yeah, they
Yeah.
are. Either way, whatever.
We'll
And then she was
discuss
like,
that later on, how that
but
goes.
Tom, says like some nice things and some true things. It's like, man, dang, Mr. Darcy. And then the CE bros high five and walk out. And then Hugo, for some strange reason, tells Kendall that like Hugo told his daughter that Logan died, and his daughter sold all of their stocks before the information of Logan's
Mm,
death came out, which is why Martha Stewart went to jail for insider trading. So that's a big no-no. You can't do that.
yeah.
But he tells Kendall this for some reason, and Kendall's like, oh, because also for this episode they decide how are we going to word why this is a good fit for you guys. And one of the options was you kind of say that your dad was losing it a little bit and that you guys have been secretly running things for a while. And Roman's like, no, we don't like putting words in our dad's mouth. And Kendall's like, I kind of like the idea. And Roman's like, no. And Kendall's like, okay. But then when Kendall finds this out from Hugo, he's like, Hugo, we plant these stories. We're going to do this. And if you tell anybody, I'm going to squeal like a pig or something like that. Uh, I'm sure that's something he would say. Um, and that's the episode that Shiv is on the bottom now. Once again,
Yeah.
Greg was almost at the top. And
I mean, he never was, but
not even
there was a
close.
thought.
Because they also say like he probably just forgot your name and you had to write it down so he could remember.
That's just another example of there's no reason for Greg to be there, but he's just
No.
there.
And the thing is, what Greg does as a job, I've always thought he's like, oh, I've always thought like, wonder what his job is, And he is just an assistant.
He's
Like
just Tom's assistant. That's
he
it.
just is Tom's assistant. And it's amazing. Not anymore. In season 4, he apparently got like a promotion. So he does whatever he's told still, but
Like an
he's not like,
assistant.
yeah, but he's not like an assistant. He's an overpaid assistant.
Well, yeah, but he like say that he has some Gregs of his own now, right?
Mhm.
Which we
Mhm.
never see them, but they're there.
They're
But yeah,
there, I guess.
episode 4.
Um,
I like the stuff with the paper. I like the whole like trying to figure out what to do because there's the element of like whoever gets it temporarily will definitely do what they can to keep it forever, but they still need to find someone temporarily. And so there's not really any comparison to season 3. Like there's no chance that you make it as interesting or as good as episode 3. I mean, But it is just a natural continuation. My biggest complaint with this episode was just how immediately Kendall goes into betray mode.
Yeah,
I feel
it's
like we needed one episode at
weird.
least where they were all on each other's side. Because
But
if you go back into it too quickly, it can almost seem kind of predictable at that point.
right. Yeah, I just don't know. Um, but yeah. Um, the next episode is episode 5.
Kill list.
Yeah, episode Kill List. And the gang go to Sweden. No, so basically they're having this like Swedish festival thing going on. Matson is and like all of what are the Gojo? All of like Gojo are having this whole thing going on, and they need to do what their dad was going to do and discuss the deal of the purchase and how
Yeah.
much they're going to make from this and how much they're going to sell it for. So they all go there, and it's awkward at first. It's like it's everyone's there, and you kind of tell from immediately from like the whole banquet buffet thing when they're all eating, and like Hugo was like stacking his plate of food, and like and these like Swedish people are like obviously like annoyed with them already. But this is like the first thing that's like the first thing as CE bros is that they have to make the biggest deal for the company,
Yeah.
and they're both stressed about it. Obviously so. Kendall immediately goes back to season 1, episode 1 Kendall. Sunglasses, ball cap is on, he owns the world. Like I called it a disguise. I said that the lens are his CEO glasses, and that when he sees like life through being in charge. And like
They're his Heisenberg attire.
honestly it is. So yeah, and Roman is going to take his Roman approach and just like I don't know what
Just
that
like
is. Just like
sit
act
on a
like he
chair
doesn't.
weird and be like,
Just not.
come on, bro. Come on. Like,
Really sex joke.
yeah.
uh, and then yeah, but so they show up and they are, Matson takes them back, and Matson's wearing like a bathrobe or something, like he's like wearing
Yeah.
something goofy. He's like has this like big jacket on, and immediately like tries talking to him for a little bit, and Kendall's trying to play like the like big bully type thing. Like he's trying to be his dad. And
Mhm.
it's pretty obvious to everybody, Matson included, that he's just trying to be Logan. And Matson sees right through his disguise and is just like, okay, whatever. Basically, they start talking about it, and he offers them a big boy paycheck, like $182 billion, I believe, for everything though, not just ATN. Or no, it was Waystar, but not ATN. It was something like that.
Yeah.
And the original deal was just for, I believe, Waystar. I think it was just Waystar.
It's a deal. I don't know.
Right. Well, the original deal that Logan made was that he was just going to buy Waystar for the money, but instead now Matson wants ATN as well. So he's offering $182 billion, and they went in with a target price of like 160 billion or something like that. So the fact that he offered $20 billion is a huge like win. So you think. So they're like, okay, well, we need to think about it. So they go out and they tell the team of the old brigade, and they're like, that's amazing, amazing overpay. What'd you guys say? And they said, well, we need to talk about it with Shiv and stuff. They talk about it, and then the brothers start sneaking and conniving. Mainly Kendall. He has the idea of, what if we tank the deal and you and me just stay in charge forever? Kendall, I think the only reason Roman accepts this is because, like I said, he sees the company as his dad, and he wants to keep his dad around.
Yeah.
I feel like if his uh I just don't know. I feel like if his dad was alive, Roman wouldn't care if it was sold or not. That's just how I view it. I don't know.
Yeah.
What do you? I mean,
No, I agree. I think that Roman kind of he's trying to find some element to keep his dad alive, and selling the company just feels gross to him because it's like getting rid of what's left, like you said.
right? Yeah, exactly. Um, and immediately Roman's like, well, we should tell Shiv, right? And Kendall's like,
Uh,
really?
I don't
Tell
think we should tell Shiv because
yeah,
telling
I just
Shiv would,
don't
she's the Shiv,
yeah, it's just I just don't think that really yeah, cool. No, so they don't tell Shiv,
Yeah.
and
But
this
Shiv also doesn't tell them something, which is that she starts to develop a um
relationship.
relationship with Matson, uh, which basically this episode's kind of sets the main conflict for the rest of the season, which is Kendall and Roman trying to keep the company and Shiv trying to sell it. And
Right. Secretly. Because Shiv and Matson have this conversation, and it is a very interesting conversation because Matson is a very
yeah,
crazy man,
so before this point, Matson had kind of been not. We haven't really known anything about him. All we knew is he's rich.
and he's a tech bro.
He's from Norway, and he wants to buy the company, right? And so every time we met up with him, like for the whole series before it, it's everything's like corporate, and there's like 50 layers that you have to break through to understand what someone's trying to say. And
Mhm.
he just kind of puts his feet up in a bathrobe and it's like, I want to buy your company, and it's just very straightforward. And then in this episode, we start to see even Matson has things he's trying to hide, but they're not like normal things that for the
Right.
show. They're not like, oh, I'm secretly trying to, fire this employee, or I'm
Right.
secretly
And it's
trying
nothing
to.
crazy of him like giving blood to one of his workers.
Oh,
Wait,
wait, it
that
is.
is it is.
He
That
mails
is what it
his
is.
female employee vials of his blood, and then they were also in a relationship, and that caused her to break up. But he can't fire her because then she would sue him
For sending blood to
sitting
her.
in blood.
And she tells Shiv this
Yeah,
for some reason.
he,
And
I.
Shiv's like, well, maybe you shouldn't send your employee blood. And Ratson's like, well, it was like as a joke. um,
and then he's like, maybe it would have been funny one time, but it was like seven times or something crazy.
it was like a lot. Like she just has cases of his blood at
It
her
reminds me of
house.
Community. Spoiler alert for Community, when Pierce dies and he gives all of them vials of a different bodily fluid.
It's just weird, but
Yeah,
yeah, and it's it's odd, but this sparks a relationship, not like a romantic relationship. It's just a
a
weird,
business
interesting,
relationship. Yeah.
complicated relationship. And she of course keeps the secret. She's keeping
Hmm.
her moves open. This is a great move by Shiv. Like this
Yeah.
is a nice move because she's getting screwed over by her brothers that she doesn't even realize yet.
She doesn't know it yet, but yeah.
But she's also like making sure that she can go either way. It's like honestly, her and Greg are in very like similar situations
Hmm.
for a majority of the show, I would say. But obviously Shiv is much more higher than Greg is. Um but no, so the whole thing is like anyways, so they're having to talk about this deal, and everyone else is that is invited to the Swedish trip is worried about making a good impression to Matson because they know when Matson does buy the company, they don't want to be put on the kill list and get fired
Right.
uh from the company when it is acquired. So you have everybody just sucking up to him. Greg even just sits down with them and is just like talking to them, and obviously like no one likes him. Matson doesn't, but they find out that Greg is his cousin, is cousins to like Kendall and all them. And I think for that reason alone, Greg was not put on the kill list.
Well,
Uh
I don't know if it was in this episode or earlier, but there was a point where they do read off Matson's plans of who to fire, and Greg is not on the list, but it's because he doesn't know who Greg is.
oh no, you're right. You're right. Yeah, because he didn't know who he was when he was
Yeah.
in like when he sat down. Um and Tom, it was apparent that Tom was probably going to be on that list, but after Shiv talked to Matson secretly, Tom was kind of saved off that list. It was never like official, but it was like kind of
Yeah.
implied that Tom can go, but if unless Shiv does something to save him. And she ends up saving Tom. Uh as for the rest of the people, they end up watching some like really bad movie or whatever. I remember Frank and Carl are in bathrobes in a sauna,
Yeah.
and like the
Well,
episode.
they decide that they want to tank the deal. So Kendall and Roman start doing bad things. Like they start trying to drive up the price. They send a really, really rough cut, intentionally bad version of a movie that they're working on to the team, and it's like 3 hours long. And um, they're trying to get Joe, what's his, Gojo to be like, never mind. And then when they have another discussion about it later in the episode, they go up to the top of this mountain, and Roman just kind of blows up in his face, in Matsson's face. And this is all in an attempt to, I think part of what he says is genuine, but it's all still part of a play to show that the company's not worth buying. And it ends
Right.
up making the price higher.
So Roman says to him while Matson is taking a pee on the island, is that
Mhm.
the whole thing is the guys are beating around the bush, and it's clearly not working because Matson's like a patient person apparently. So while he's peeing, Roman walks up to him. He's like, "You know what? Listen, we're tanking this deal. Any number you're gonna send, we're gonna." He's like, "Any email you send, it's gonna take us 2 months to send back another one." And he's like, it's gonna be like 20 years later until we make a deal or something like that, and we're still not gonna make it. And basically, he's like, "Oh, you really screwed yourself or whatever." They get back on the plane to go home, and the kill list is sent. But also, Matson calls Frank, I believe, and Matson's now offering them 10 more billions of dollars to buy this company, and everyone's like, "Oh, this is a great job, guys! You did amazing." And then he calls Shiv. He's like, "Hey, send a picture of your brothers for me," and she does, and that sparks the relation. It doesn't spark, but it continues the relationship
Mhm.
between Shiv and Matson. But I don't know. I just think that with this last episode with Kill List, I think um I don't know. As far as when I was watching it, I had no idea like what was going to happen. I mean, what do you do? I because obviously the board likes this because everyone wants to get paid. Um, but obviously Kendall and Roman, they want to keep it. So their backs are against the wall, and Shiv is now kind of on top with Matson. She's got Matson in her back pocket. Matson has her in the back pocket. And I mean, Tom and Greg aren't on a kill list. Greg wasn't on any list,
The
so
disgusting brothers strike again.
they strike again, kind of. Once again,
Yeah.
but no.
I I'd say that there's not really at this point in time, there's not like this person is definitely on top. It's laying the groundwork for the main conflict and setting it up like this could really go either way. So let's see how
Right.
it plays out, kind of thing.
Mhm.
And this next episode, Living Plus, man, this episode was a roller coaster.
It's so weird. I gotta be honest. So while this episode was going on, I was not a fan of it. I
Yeah,
didn't like it. I did not like it,
I
and
didn't
I
like it
was.
either. And it shows in the IMDb rating is like you said, of the episode 3 forward, it's the
It's the
only
lowest
one.
rated episode in the season 4.
Yeah,
And I did not like it until the end,
until like
which
the last
made
few
me
minutes.
enjoy the rest of the episode. But the journey you're taking to get to the end is rough. It's like not good in my opinion. Uh because everything, so it starts off with Greg, not what I just say a name hoping I'm right. Uh no, it's not Greg at all. I think it's like them all talking, and I think Roman has to go meet because they're in Hollywood and they're about to have a, not like, kind of like a shareholder. It's like their Disney Expo type thing. They're gonna
Right.
have their Waystar, expo, saying like what's in store for Phase 5.
They
Um,
yeah, and what their goal is, Kendall and Roman, who are trying to make the deal not happen right now at the current evaluation, they kind of have to take Mattson's deal. So what their goal is they need to make this investor meeting go so well that the stock price recovers enough from Logan's death that they can be able to turn down the deal.
right.
They need to set themselves up with some good stock prices so that they are allowed to turn down the deal. And
Hmm.
I'd say in this episode is the first time. I mean, is the most since episode 3 is the most where you feel the absence of Logan the most.
Yeah.
Be-
No, and that's so true because everyone doesn't know what to do. Everyone is reaching for the stars in this, and it starts off so they're in Hollywood, or like LA, and they're getting ready for their whatever. Well, Roman has to meet with some showrunner, and Roman goes over to the showrunner, meets her at like some cafe place or whatever, and as they're talking, Roman just like decides that he doesn't want to deal with her because she's not, whatever, and just fires her
Mhm.
like on the spot. And she's like really upset, rightfully so, no warning at all. And just kind of blatantly, he just fires her. And Roman is on this like high and just like walks out of the restaurant or whatever. And I like, as soon as that happened, I'm like, okay, I don't know. Because typically you can kind of like understand everyone's motives type thing on what they're going to do this episode. But for Roman, I was like, okay, Roman's a wild card always, but this is like almost out of character for him in a sense of how insane this is. But I'm like, okay, we'll let it be. Firing someone's not like strange. And he, goes to Kendall and Kendall's talking. And I think like the scene goes over to Kendall to like talking about these like stage managers, and he's trying to like he's
Well,
like shooting big here.
he's shooting big because he's telling uh he's trying to essentially fudge the numbers of the new Living Plus thing, which is like the last thing that Logan was working on. Um, they're trying to fudge the numbers in a realistic way so that they can I don't remember what the word project super high income or whatever. And Logan is going, I know, Kendall is going full, I think season 2 Kendall, where
Hmm.
he tries to put on this big production and has wild plans and insane
That's season
requests.
3. That's season
That's
3
season 3.
with his birthday party.
Yeah, yeah, it's full birthday party Kendall, where he's like, "Okay, workers, you have one day. I need you to build a full Living Plus house on this stage with clouds, and you can open up the house and show the audience." And like, he just has all these crazy demands, and he's fudging the numbers to such an extreme. And as you said, Roman is being a wild card, and it feels like it's so directionless, and it feels like they're grasping at trying to be what Logan was, but like because like Logan would make the big plays and
Yeah.
he would just collect skulls left and right. But what they don't have is the respect. And constantly, I think it happens like 3 times. Someone looks them in the eye and says, "You're not your dad." And that
Hmm.
is just more motivation for them to continue on these insane tangents. And you could continue.
Yeah. So uh basically Kendall's like, we should have this house, clouds, smoke machines, cat cam, dog cam,
6
the
consoles.
6 consoles, 15 monitors. Uh um and it's just like just shooting way above like what they can do in the span of like 24 hours.
Right.
It's like probably like 12 hours or something. Like it's like not a lot of I think it's like that evening they're doing this
It's a
presentation or something
crazy
like that.
deadline.
Yeah. And he's asking for a miracle to be done essentially. Um and they're like, I don't think we can do that. He's like, yes, you can. Yes, you can. He's like, they're like, okay. And then it goes to oh, sorry. The episode opens up with they found a video of Logan like practicing lines or something in front of in front of a green screen, and he's like yelling at assistants or whatever, and he's
Yeah.
like, "You're almost as bad as my idiot kids" or whatever, and that basically Kendall sends Greg with this video to like this team of editors, and he's like, "So can you guys edit Logan to say something like this?" And they're like, "No, I mean we can't really do." Did he say that? It's like, "No, but you can edit it." He's like, "You can do it." I'm like, "We don't think." Greg's like, "Nah, yeah, I'm pretty sure you can. You can do this.
And he's like,
And
because if you can't do it, then Kindle gets mad at me, and if Kindle gets mad at me, I get mad at you, and I just we can't.
and so that's like Greg's side quest for the
Yeah.
episode, is that he's just dealing with editors. And then Roman is talking to Ken, and Jerry hops in. She's like, Roman, we need to talk. So Roman, he goes over to Jerry, and she's like, so did you fire the showrunner that we need for tonight that's doing the event? He's like, yeah, I mean, not really. It was like a joke fire. It was like a pretend fire. And
No, he actually fired her,
well, that's what he's
right?
saying. He's saying, no, it was like, not really. I just said that. And Jerry basically says something similar of, you're not your dad or whatever. He's like, you know what?
Mm.
What if I fire you? And
Yeah.
she's like, no. He's like, yeah, you know what? Yep, you're fired. And fires Jerry and walks out. And he's like, yeah, so Ken, I think I just fired Jerry. He's like, oh, you're on a roll. Who are you gonna fire now? Fire me, man. Yeah, fire whoever you want to, man. Do it. So Kendall's like totally backing Roman. It's like honestly really awesome for
It's
how terrible everything's going.
yeah.
Um,
There's
but
a minute left.
then Shiv is calling Matson, and she is like, hey, blah blah blah, this is exactly what my brothers are doing. They're going to do this, that, and the other. And Matson's like, well, can we stop it? Can you stop them from doing this? Because Matson's worried about like them just messing up the deal.
Yeah.
Matson is not like, Matson's just wanting the company. He's not like, there's no secret motive going on. He just like wants to make money, and he doesn't want these idiots to hurt the brand that he's about to buy. Because he likes the brand and whatever. So she's like, I can try to talk them out of it. And in the midst of all of the chaos going around of like Roman firing people and Kendall just like
But
planning.
he's planning a huge event and being seemingly extremely irresponsible with projections and promises. In the midst of all that, he
Shiv
said,
talks to Roman, and she's like, I don't think this is a good idea. Kendall's gonna crash and burn. Do you really want to be affiliated with that in any way? Like, do you want to be on the stage? Because also in Roman's defense and in Shiv's defense, like literally Kendall has no idea Roman has no idea what's going to happen, and Kendall is like on cloud nine. He's excited, and he pulls out these two like pilot suits that they're gonna wear, like astronaut suits,
yeah,
to wear during the like press conference. Um, so Roman tells Ken, he's like, listen, I'm not gonna do it. I think you're kind of going overboard here, but you should still do it like by yourself though. And Ken is like, oh, seriously, dude. Okay, fine, and whatever. Roman follows Shiv up to like their watch room or whatever, and as Ken's walking, Carl, who's the COO, I believe,
CFO.
CFO, Chief Financial. Yeah, you're right. Um, and he's like, listen, I know you're gonna fudge the numbers. He's like, and you can't fire me. What are you gonna do? Fire your CFO? He's like, if you mess with these numbers, like you're gonna basically get it. And
Mhm.
Kendall's like,
And yet again, we hear you're not your dad.
right, yeah, yeah. And Ken's like, sure, sure, sure. And just Ken walks and goes on stage wearing his thing and proceeds to just kill it. Like it is somehow really good, the
Yeah.
whole thing. And Greg managed to get the editors to do what he wanted to do. So Ken
And
and
well,
like,
in the middle of the performance, Matson
oh
tweets
yeah, you're
out.
right.
So basically, what Living Plus is it's basically like a retirement home that you pay a subscription for, and it's just draining old people money for like a better retirement home. It's like I think they were talking about it like as like it's like a cruise, but not on a boat. So it's just a yeah, that's basically it. And so during the presentation, Matson, who, as everyone knows, is trying to buy the company, tweets out a picture of a concentration camp and was like, "This is Living Plus" or something. He says, "Yeah,"
Yeah.
and uh, everyone's like, "Uh oh, how's that going to affect the stock? How is this going to affect things?" But Kendall does so well that Matson deletes the tweet and the stocks go up. That is
which is
positive.
crazy.
So yeah, which the
And
reason we dislike the episode is because throughout the whole thing, it feels so haphazard and it feels so like consciously tanking everything and it feels so terrible. And then at the end, when it works, it's just
it
like a
honestly feels like a finale episode. It's like something I would get like right before a finale or something like that,
yeah.
but it's just not. And I'm like losing it while I'm watching it. But no, so Kendall did really well. And um Matson took down his tweet, and like it looks at this point that, you know,
Maybe
they
they know
might,
what they're doing
like,
after all.
yeah, and they might be successful in doing this. Um, and then next episode happens,
Tailgate
and this
party.
is election eve. The spotlight is on Mr. Wamsgans because the election is tomorrow, and the head of ATN himself, Tom Wamsgans, is hosting an election eve party with a bunch of leaders and whatnot, and you know, whatever. So everyone has their own plan. Kendall and Roman have a plan on bringing Nate to the party because Nate is on the like he is on, it's Mencken, and who's the other presidential candidate?
Jimenez.
Jimenez. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Nate's on Hermanez's side, and he, like, he just knows everything. He's a good publicist as well. So they're thinking like, hey, if scratch our back, we can scratch yours. You can help us, by talking bad about Matson and everything and how this is not good. And so they're gonna try to bring him and do this. Shiv knows that they're gonna do this, so Shiv uh basically is reaching out to Matson to get him and make sure that he comes to the party, so that way he can, you know, make sure he smooths things over. But also, we forgot to mention Tom and Shiv are kind of back together now. They did some like canoodling.
Is this
At This
is
is the episode where it opens up with Tom and Greg at the office, and Greg has to fire these people.
okay? So yeah, so in the last episode, had they had gotten back together, and so now in this episode, they are like very, it's very awkward to read, but like very explicitly texting each other, like last night was fun, and like they're just doing their business stuff, but on the text they're like being
Like
very
Tom is being like really like intimate and gross through text, while Greg is firing like 50 people.
yeah.
And it's just like, it's hilarious. And Greg honestly did really good. He like has the lines he says, fires them, and he's like, I see there's some confusion in chat. Basically, we can no longer keep you guys on staff. We have to save and, prevent extra costs. So unfortunately, we're letting you guys go. Thank you. And just like leaves.
Yeah.
And no like remorse at all, just does it easily.
Yeah.
And
The thing about the texts is like it shows that for whatever reason Tom and Shiv are trying to cling on to whatever relationship they had, which they never really had one. They're trying to cling on to it, but like their texts say that, but their actions and like how they're like both not really focusing on what's going on shows that it's an attempt, but it's a unsuccessful attempt to try to keep a relationship going, and that will come back in later in the episode, but that's just laying the seeds for where they're
right,
at in their relationship.
because they also mention, I think also near the beginning of this episode, Connor and them are eating, and they're talking about funeral plans and who's going to speak at the funeral, and they're kind of like beating around it a little bit. And then I don't know if it's this episode or next episode, I think it's this episode, where Kendall, or when Roman says to Kendall and Shiv, he's like, I want to speak at for
Mhm.
the wedding. I was like, let's go, Kendall, we
Funeral.
got this.
Yeah.
You got this.
Roman. Yeah.
Or Roman, my bad. So they're all, whatever,
They're all the
but
same.
they're all the same. um and is like, people start coming in for the party. Uh, Tom is like exhausted. He's like super tired already, and Greg's like, just drink some coffee. He's like, no, because if I drink coffee, then I won't be able to sleep tonight when the party's over. Think, Greg, think. And it's just like classic, like Tom just getting mad at Greg for
Yeah.
no reason. He's like, so what are you gonna like? Oh, Mattson's here. He's like, what are you gonna do? He's like, well, I think Mattson hates me, so I'm gonna be Team Kenro right now or something like that. And I think Tom was gonna try to work his way to be like buddy with Mattson. Um, oh well, who knows what happens, I guess. We do because we saw the show. And that was dumb. Either way, I'm trying to remember like chronologically what happens in this episode. All I know was like while I was watching this, I was like immediately could tell that this was going to be a better episode because things had an order to them. Like something was organized. I was like, okay, Tom's a good party planner. I think he's got this.
Basically, I don't know chronologically, but the
Mhm.
main points are Shiv and Matson have a conversation where Shiv finds out that Matson's numbers in India are heavily exaggerated and
No, it's because while okay, yeah. So this is Logan's party. This is a party Logan already planned and sent invites out for. Um, and Greg sits down with Matson and I forget the other guy's name, other Swedish guy,
I don't
but
remember.
they're sitting down, they're chatting, and Eva is there. She's like honestly hated by Matson for some reason.
Well,
Uh,
that's the girl he sent blood.
yeah, and um, Greg's like, "Oh, you want me to fire Eva?" And he's like, "Yeah, could you do that for me, Greg?" He's like saying that like sarcastically, like just trying to be like a punk. And he's like, he's like, "Yeah, no, I can fire her right now. I actually have some experience in firing people." And basically, Greg like tells them he fired like 30 people.
And how
Oh,
he
you
doesn't
kind of
feel anything.
yeah. It's like you kind of suck, don't you? It's like I mean, no, I'm a good person. It's like I just got you got to do what you have to do. He's like, do you? Do you have to? Like, I don't know. I love Evil Greg. I think Evil Greg is great. Um, but
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just I don't think I'd be able to fire somebody. Would you?
Actually, I've been meaning to talk to you about that.
No.
I'm gonna have to let you go. I feel
No.
nothing. I feel nothing.
Oh. But they basically just making fun of Eva, and she like angrily goes upstairs. And Kendall and Roman they spot a female. Not they spot they said, oh, someone emotionally distressed. Let's see if we can get into her mind.
Yeah.
Uh, not to comfort her, not to help her. Let's benefit her loss is our gain. So
Yeah.
they go and they are like interrogating her. It's like they're grilling her after she's like on like she hates her life.
And
She's
she also has social anxiety.
yeah.
So she's
And
like in
another
this.
reason why she's being made fun of. It's like,
Yeah.
it's so cringy how Matson handles people. And the thing is, Matson even said to his like buddies is that he's trying to keep a good image for this party because
Hmm.
he needs people to like him in order for them to go ahead and like say yeah to the deal. And Eva basically says that Matson and them have been lying on their numbers in India. Basically, he said in order for them to like make sure that if the numbers weren't a lie, they would have to build a second India.
Yeah.
Um, and I looked into the science; it's not possible.
Even with the resources they have. But yeah, so
You know.
it comes out that they have bad numbers. Shiv finds out and then takes Matson into a coat closet. He's like, "What's the deal with these numbers?" And he's like, "Well, I was just gonna let them do it, just let them go and buy the company."
That's
And
such a good Matson impression. Oh my
thank
goodness,
you. And
Alex
she
Skarsgård would be so proud.
thank you. And then she goes, I'm Shiv. It's me, Shiv.
It's me, Shiv.
Yo, it's me, Shiv. You gotta tell the public about the numbers.
I'm pregnant.
You gotta do the numbers. Yeah.
No, yeah.
He's like,
So
she's like, you have to let these numbers out You just have to do it in a way where no one picks up on it and really cares.
Right. But
So
also, sorry,
no,
go ahead.
yeah, you got it.
I was gonna say also Shiv is now like was in such a good spot. Literally, like a few episodes ago, is now like, is this even worth doing?
Mm-hmm.
Because if this information falls into incorrect hands, then I'm doomed type thing. Like
Yeah.
she might mess herself up and she'll just be stuck with Kendall and Roman just being on top. And she doesn't want that, obviously. But whatever. So she's doing her own thing, and then about this time, Roman gets a call from Mencken and his political team, and they're saying, "Listen, because it's looking like early polls are showing that Hernandez is going to win, and Mencken and Roman are pretty tight." So he's like, "Hey, do you think you could talk Connor into dropping out? Because Connor somehow is actually pulling numbers from Mencken, and if Connor were to drop out, those numbers would essentially go to Mencken, giving him more of a lead."
Yeah.
So he's like, "Okay, you want me to ask my own brother to hop out of the presidential race? Sure, I'll ask him." So he goes, and smart Connor's like, "Well, what do I get from doing this?" And everyone's like, "For the good of the Republic." And basically he's like, "I want somewhere special." And they mentioned some like third world country. He's like, no, bit too car bomby and stuff like that. He's just being like racist. He's like, "What about South Korea?" He's like, "Oh, one of the world's biggest influential like whatever." Is like, probably not. He's like, "North Korea." This like guy there's like, "Easy, my liege." He's like, "I don't think you should be anywhere that that has nukes." And Connor's like, "I don't think I want to be anywhere that doesn't have a nuke." Oh, the whole like Roman and Connor conversation is incredible. He's like, "What about Oman?" He's like, "Oman? I'd have to talk to my woman about Oman." And just like considers it or whatever, and he obviously talks to Willa, and Willa she's like, "Well, everyone in my family hates Mencken, so this really isn't good for anybody, but we would live in Oman." And they're like, "No, no," so they turn it down, and then Roman's ticked. Sorry. Roman's upset, and Roman then just starts like tearing into Connor for really no reason. It's just like it's a Roman
Well,
outburst
Roman
that
is
we've
so
seen
invested
before.
in Macon winning the election because he picked him out, first of all.
Right.
That's another decision that Logan made. And second and third of all, Mencken has promised Roman that he will block the Gojo deal if he is elected president.
Right.
Um,
Um and
so he has a lot riding on Mencken winning.
right. Um so Roman is now just like tearing into Connor, and it's like not nice words. He's being like really rude or whatever. And Kendall's there to like smooth things over. And basically sitting in the background is Matson during all this. And while like Connor's walking away, he's like, "You got my vote, Mr. President," or whatever. And Kendall starts like having this open confrontation to uh Matson. Goodness, Matson's having this conversation with Kendall, and they start like arguing. He's like, "I saw your numbers," and he's like, "They're pretty gay." And Kendall's like, "Whoa, that's a bit homophobic, dude, isn't it?" And just like all like try to be like politically correct, and just like Kendall's not at all. And Matson clearly isn't either, and it's just like awkward. This whole like it's like second degree cringing type thing.
Mhm.
And he's like, "I love the deal, man. Do you love the deal?" And he's like, "Oh, I love the deal." He's like, "Yeah, biggest overpay in history." And they like give this like awkward hug or whatever. It's just like tough to watch. And I think Matson ends up leaving, and Shiv and Tom, I can't remember what sparks it, but they need to have a conversation. They want to have a real, because Tom doesn't like seeing Matson and Shiv together doing their thing. And Tom was like, "Do you want to have a real conversation?" type thing. And she's like, "Sure." They go outside to the balcony, and it becomes like one of the most
A
difficult.
like a screaming match, basically.
Yeah. Oh, because at the beginning of this episode, Tom gives Shiv a party prezi, uh, and it's like just a scorpion,
Yeah,
and yeah, it's like so symbolic that I just don't know what it means. But I guess it's the
he's calling
scorpion and
her
the snake.
Scorpion.
Yeah, it's the scorpion and the snake. Because she calls him a snake, and she's like, "And I think that you are not a good person to have children." And like
Because he doesn't
that
know she's
hits,
pregnant,
yeah, and like
which
that hits hard. And I'm like watching this, and I'm
it
just
hits her
like,
hard. But to be fair, she has been nonstop drinking ever since we found out she was pregnant.
not true, not true. I don't think she's drinking at all until the next episode
She's drinking the whole
or the
time.
episode before that. No, she's not drinking. If you look, everything that she's had alcohol, she's either held it and never taken a sip, or just puts it up to her lips. I
That's
promise
not
you.
true at all.
I promise
That's
you.
not true at all because when she's we find out that she is pregnant in episode 3. We see her drinking as soon as episode 5 when she's in a room alone with Matson.
No, she doesn't drink there. She puts it up to her lips, but she does not drink.
Well, that either way, she still drinks at some point in the show.
She does, but it is more symbolic, or not symbolic. It's more like impactful because for the simple fact that like she's been like teasing it kind of all this time. But either way, uh, they were like having this whole screaming match, and she's calling him a snake, and I thought Tom was gonna jump off this balcony and kill himself.
Yeah, we definitely thought that Tom was just gonna jump.
I think like suicide was such like a big thing of what we thought was going to happen in the show multiple
Yeah,
times,
yeah.
multiple for like every episode almost. It's like, oh, I bet freaking Willa kills herself here, just like because I mean they even hint, all right, they do hint at it a lot, do they not?
Yeah,
Because when Willa goes missing, the whole scene with Tom just on the balcony.
they've hinted at Kendall killing himself from season 1. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's just crazy. Um, but I don't know what's gonna happen. And I'm freaking out. This whole conversation is like making me die inside. It's so real, but it's like something that needed to be said, I guess, between them. Because
yeah.
like,
It's
I don't
just
know,
it's another example of people just saying how they feel instead of all the double talk that
but
we see throughout the show.
like people just need to go to therapy though. Goodness.
Yeah, I will say after, like I said in episodes 1 and 2, I wasn't feeling it as much. Episode 3 really revitalized my opinion of it, but the show has like kind of failed to reach the heights of episode 3 since then. Um, and I think from the next episode forward, it's kind of it is at the level of like
mhm.
strong feelings of throughout.
You're
Yeah,
you're right.
because like
Yeah.
these other episodes, there's like 1 or 2 scenes where you're like, oh man, but these next 3 episodes are just nonstop, like crazy train. I don't know how else to
Right.
describe it, but
And then so they have this whole argument. Shiv is done with the argument. She goes in and Tom goes in. And while this is going on, uh Kendall meets with Nate and they're talking, and Ken's saying like all the stuff about Matson. Some of it may be true, some of it not. They know about the numbers thing, but Nate's not sure if it's like enough they can go off of type thing. And Nate's like, you know what? No, I'm not gonna do anything. You're not your dad. That's a good thing. He says that once again. That's another thing that's being said. And um Hiddle doesn't want to hear that, but Nate leaves. Nate had a little thing with Tom where like Tom gave him wine and stuff. Uh with it, which is funny after making him pour it back in the bottle during the wedding
yeah.
of the first season. And then Tom is like super tired. He's like, okay, bedtime for Bonzo. Everybody leave, please. Everybody get out. He's just done. He's just tired.
Yeah,
And he does leave, he goes upstairs and the episode ends of just him wide, like eyes wide open, just looking up at the ceiling. And the next episode is nothing short of amazing, which is the actual election episode. And this is my favorite episode of the series,
America Decides.
of at least of season 4, because I love Safe Room, and I do love season 3, episode 5, which is the shareholder meeting. Um, but this somehow feels like older Succession, where it's like, yeah, the stakes are high, but everyone is like just it's like a confined space that they like are in, and it's just like everyone running around doing a
Yeah.
million different things. It's amazing. You know, it's great when the episode opens up with Tom and Greg, and Tom's like, you know what, you're gonna be my Greg for tonight. He's like, yes, you are. You're my
He's like,
Greg for tonight.
no.
And they like secretly do cocaine in the room or whatever.
Like, I don't know if I want to do that, Tom. Greg, the Aztecs said it's medicinal. Are you racist, Greg?
Dude, it's like the best dynamic duo like in TV, man. It's like I would love to see Breaking Bad, but just replace the actors of
Dude,
Aaron Paul and Bryan Cranston to be Matthew and Nicholas Braun.
yeah, this episode, um, basically, America Decides is the title. It has been said it's the election episode. Tom has to run ATN on election night, Macon versus Jimenez. And meanwhile, um, the kids are like running stuff from the top, and basically there's chaos not just in the company but in the country. And
Mhm.
while all these elections are going on, there's like riots and fires and all that stuff, and
Yeah,
it leads to a well. Am I going too quick for you or
I would
uh
say you are, because I
okay?
think this episode alone starts the root of a lot of my debate stuff in future episodes, especially with the fires. So you have Tom, who's in charge of ATN, needs to make sure everything goes perfectly. Otherwise, he's done. If he can't handle the biggest night for their TV station, then there's no need to even keep him hired.
Mm-hmm.
So he did not sleep the night before. He's now high on cocaine. He's good to go. Uh, that's what you need in life.
Yep.
You need a Greg, you need some coke, and I think that's it. Uh,
This message is not representative of the thoughts of What Did You Think. It is solely the opinions of Ben Brooks.
yeah. Any future employers watching this, that was a joke.
Yeah.
Either way, so they have to. He needs to make sure he is on his like A game. So they're doing the whole thing. Early polls is showing that it's going to be Hermanez again. Ken finds this out because he gets a call from not Marsha, Rava, saying that like, no, he meets Rava in person, and Rava is like, listen, your daughter was like walking in the street and she was like pushed or whatever, and people at school are not, liking her. Some of them are obviously. So it shows very quickly that if Mencken wins, it's not going to be really good for Ken's daughter, along with like a lot of other people like her. So, uh, and Ken immediately goes to, well, where were you? Why was she walking alone or whatever? It's such like a dumb Kendall thing to say.
Mm-hmm.
It's like super rude. And then pulls a Logan line of, you don't know, everything I do is for my family. Everything I do. Pulls a Walter White is like,
Yeah.
everything I do is for my family. And it's just, yeah, it's like so stupid, like the way he answers, instead of being like supportive and like a good dad and
Yeah.
husband or ex-husband, that I feel like he could have done better.
Maybe.
But
Basically, what's important out of that scene is that changes the stakes for Kendall. It's no longer just about all of the kids are treating this election as nothing more but a business move. But that for Kendall, that also changes the stakes. If he gets what he wants for business reasons, does that make him a bad father? And
yeah,
uh the answer is yes. So he has to deal with that. Uh,
Right. And it's made very clear from this episode that Roman is pro Mankin and Shiv is pro Hermanas, and Kendall's like honestly in the middle. He doesn't know what to do. Should he make the business decision that would possibly help them with Mencken, or should he make the politically correct situation in this world of going with Hermanas, like the decision that benefits his family the most? And so he's like, obviously taking in everything. States are being called, and then it announces that there's a vote counting area in Milwaukee that is on fire, that got burnt. They don't know what organization or group burned it. All they know is that it's being burnt and tons of votes went up into flames. As of right now, it was suggested that it would go to Mencken, but there was enough votes in there to obviously sway the vote. So the whole conversation is like, what do we do with Milwaukee, or what do we do with Wisconsin? Do we call it or not? And Roman's like, call it, and Shiv's like, definitely not. And
mhm.
Mr. Breaking Bad is there, and he's like, well, listen, we can definitely call it. And then he gets wasabi in his eyes thanks to Greg, and like it's just another like shenanigan thing that happens. And he's like, we could do a pending call as long as I'm up there explaining that this is a pending call. Because he said he himself thinks that it's Mencken, but he doesn't want to call it because it really could go either way. Roman said, I'm gonna go take a pee, secretly tells the Nazi guy that works at ATN to go ahead and like go on this like insane rant on why it's Mencken, and basically they call it. And this guy's like, what? So all the votes were Republican? Is that really it? And while like the thing is up in flames, one of the like touch screens dies and like
Yeah,
breaks, and they're having to do this whole thing. It's hilarious and like stressful, but Roman gets his way, and they just call Wisconsin.
right. So
Uh,
that's how the kids are able to influence the election. That's how the choice is Kendall's, in that who should become president is because since the fire, we don't know who actually won.
mm,
Whoever ATN calls will effectively be president at least for until
a
those
little
votes are
bit,
fixed. Yeah.
right? So, and this whole thing. So Roman's meeting up with Mencken, talking to them. Shiv's meeting up with Hermanez, and Roman is just, or Kendall's just doing his thing. And while Shiv is on the phone with Matson, she finds out that Matson told Greg that her and Shiv have been in cahoots. And Shiv, Greg tells Tom this, and Tom says, knowledge is like a bottle of wine. You save it and you store it until one moment you hit somebody in the face with it.
Mm-hmm.
And Greg stores it. And Shiv finds out that Greg knows, and Shiv takes
Dude, this
him
scene.
into a room. And I did not think it was going to go the way I thought. I thought Shiv was going to pull something and say like that Greg like harassed her and assaulted her or whatever. And I was like about to be so sad because like there's no way Greg gets out of this. No, Greg's dead here. And so she pulls Greg in, and she's like, "You think I'm attractive, Greg?" And Greg's like, this is this is awkward. No, I don't think this is appropriate. You're my cousin." Uh, like, well, why are you trying to screw me and everything? And she's like, if you tell anybody, I will gut you, pull at your insides or whatever. Like threatens Greg, and Greg's like, oh, okay, whatever. And about this time, the election night happens, and Arizona is ready to call. Arizona is the final state. When they call the election, because they called Wisconsin, will show that Mencken becomes president. So the whole conversation then becomes, do we call Arizona and keep it as is and call Mencken president? Do we call Arizona and go back on Wisconsin and say it's pending? Or do we just not call Arizona? Because PGN and all these other places are calling Arizona. So Roman's like, we should definitely call it. We can't go back on our decision. That hurts our brand. Shiv is like, we definitely should. It's like it's democracy type thing. We shouldn't name a president right now. Uh, and Kendall is honestly, I think he's leaning more towards Shiv, honestly, on this side. I
Yeah,
think the
he
conversation with
definitely is because
Rava really helped.
he's leaning towards Shiv and Jimenez because of Rava. And we know this because he keeps calling Jimenez's team and he's like trying to get them thinking about
Mm,
blocking the deal.
right, right. Yeah, that's true. Um,
Because even
and
that and early polls are also showing that Jimenez is supposed to win. Uh,
right, yeah.
yeah,
Um, but um, Ken was like, "All right, we'll call Nate, see if you can, get them again." Shiv fakes a phone call with Nate. I would
Mhm.
not have done that. I would not have done that. Um, but Ken calls Nate, and like Nate answers or something, and as he's out there, Greg is out there, and Greg talks to Ken, and the whole thing is like, do we tell him? Did he not? I'm like, Greg, please, like, make the move, Greg, please tell him. And Greg like snitched on Shiv, and Ken walks in, he's ticked because Shiv's been like backstabbing him and playing both sides this whole time. and and like that, out of anger, I think Ken then just signs with
yeah,
Roman,
it's definitely
and
just to get back at Shiv, like
yeah,
100%.
and they call the election, and Greg has to then deliver the news, and
Hmm.
Greg does. Greg delivers the news, and they call Mencken as president, and Shiv's upset, Roman's upset at Shiv, and Ken is like really angry at Shiv as well. And that's the end of the
This
episode.
this episode is so crazy, and it was so stressful to
Yeah.
watch, just because it was just everyone's most primal, like, uh, actions, and like,
Hmm.
nobody comes out on top here except for Megan, but like everyone is terrible to everyone, and it's just like everyone is so focused on getting exactly what they want with no regard for any other person, that it's
Hmm.
just like you really see the worst in everybody in this episode. And
Right.
there's no, it's not a satisfying ending, and that's like in a good way.
It's such an amazing episode. The intensity and energy is there. It is so funny.
Yeah,
Like, I think it's one of the most humorous episodes in the show.
definitely.
Uh and it's like, honestly, it's the perfect like portions of everything to just make a solid episode of television, let alone Succession. And yeah, I was just like a big fan of it. That's why, I mean, it's my favorite. It's not as sad as the Logan one, which is, why I enjoy it a lot more, because I'm not depressed while watching it. And I think it's a lot of fun. I like the moves that they make.
Yeah,
Yeah. And
it's a
uh,
fantastic Greg episode. It's one of the best Greg episodes.
yeah.
Yeah,
And then we have the last two episodes.
the last two episodes, which are pretty good.
Yeah, so we got the last two episodes, and this is
Church and State.
the first episode in the show to make me cry, and the only one.
Yeah.
Um, I man, so this is the episode of Logan's funeral, and it's, that you got the kids. They're talking about, they have, so Connor is like the party planner of the family. He does events, and he told the siblings, we're trying to keep it a tight 90 for the funeral, 90 hours. Um,
No.
90
90
minutes.
minutes.
Uh, and so, he's like, okay, so we're gonna have blah 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 speak. We'll have the wheelman, bring him down. Then we're gonna do Roman, and then it's your speech, and then we'll be done. And or Shiv's speech, and then we'll be done. Uh, and they're like, okay, and we see Roman practicing his speech, and it is a Roman speech, comedic moments, whatever.
It's comedic, but it's also trying to like build up Logan, and like make him out to be a great man and all that stuff.
Right? Yeah. And the speech sounds really good when Roman is practicing. Not even that, it doesn't sound good while he's practicing either. He's just like skimming over it.
Yeah.
And I don't know what parts he's saying is in the speech or is not.
Probably not the part
Um,
where he goes blah blah blah, I would
he
imagine.
says, see Kenny die, see Chivy lie, see Roman the showman light up the sky. Um, but I'm cracking up. It's funny. And Tom is swamped with AT and stuff. He hasn't slept again,
More like
because he's
Tom
just
Swamped Gans.
swamp twam.
Tom Swamped Gans.
I like that one. That's a good one, Cameron.
Yeah, fulfilling my
Say it
role.
again. Not. And then, yeah, No, so Tom is like wanting to be at the wedding or at the funeral and doesn't think he'll be able to make it in time because he has to be one of the wheelmen to walk down the casket. And he's like, okay, well, Greg, go give me a seat, second row, and tell Mencken that we made the call.
Yeah.
Because everyone's gonna be here. Every like anyone with financial power is in this room. Any political leader is like in this room. It's like presumed to be.
Right.
Just like so many important people are here. And it's like everyone's loading into this, place. We got Kendall is they pick up everybody, all the siblings, and this is like a day after uh they found out Shiv lied, and they're all like joking around with each other. Kendall's very serious. Uh Roman's making just dumb jokes, and Shiv finally tells them, uh oh, Shiv told Tom that she's pregnant in the election episode, last episode, and he didn't believe her, or kind of. He was like, is this like just a way to play?
Hmm.
And so she finally tells her siblings that she's pregnant because she's going to tell her mom at the funeral, and she wanted them to know. And they're like, "Oh, is it?" She's like, "Yes, it's Greg's." What? Or yes, it's Tom's.
I thought you were
Plot
joking.
twist.
I thought you were joking.
No, I forgot. I messed them up. Um, no, unfortunately not.
Whoa.
Those predictions were wrong. What happened in that office when Shiv
All
pulled
right.
him in there? That's not how it works. And then so everyone's there. Greg rides his bike, like full on sprint on the bike to the funeral. He shows up like sweaty. Kendall finds out that his assistant is quitting and is like, okay, that's dumb. You're dumb. That's a dumb move, Jess.
Yeah.
And Hugo says that, hey, looks like Matson's numbers are like not true. And he's like, okay. Show up to the funeral. Roman's there, and while they're all walking behind the grave, Roman is kind of like starting to get sad a little bit. He said he pre-grieved though, so he should be fine. And everyone's there, and we see Carrie.
Hmm.
Carrie's there, and I thought it was like, oh, that's gonna be awkward. But then Carolina takes Carrie. She takes Carolina's assistant, and then she takes Marcia, and they all like sit together in the second row. And I was like, and Marcia, like Carrie really liked him, like really
Yeah.
loved him, honestly. Like she was like crying and stuff. And Marsha was there and she was like comforting Carrie. I was like, that was really sweet to watch. Um and then Ewan or so Greg becomes a wheelman to walk the casket down. And I was worried he was gonna drop it. Thankfully he didn't. Um and
They were told um to not let Ewan speak
mhm,
because Ewan does not like his brother. And if they say he thinks if he says something bad about Logan publicly, that would affect the stock price.
yes. Well, Ewan speaks.
Yep.
He walks up there. Greg was like, "What do you want me to do? Like, take out his legs?" uh, so Ewan speaks. It's a really good speech to start off, um, and then ends on a negative side on just like talking about how his brother didn't care about
Yeah.
him. Um, and then they're like, "Well, Roman, you can like turn this around, right?" Roman's like,
You need to show him both sides.
yeah." So Roman stands up. Frank is like trying to be comforting. He's like, "You okay, son? Like, you're good?" It's like, "I pre-grieved. I'm not your son."
Hmm.
It goes up there and just can't even get
Dude,
out the first sentence.
one of the
And
best performances
immediately,
of the whole show.
so this is easily the best performance of Kieran Culkin besides Scott Pilgrim. No,
Besides Home Alone 1, where he's sitting there eating pizza.
yeah, I forgot he's in that. Yeah, so he's there, and Roman actually shows the most emotion we've ever seen,
Yeah.
and is just like bawling his eyes out while he's there standing with his um siblings, and they're comforting him. And it's just like super hard to watch, and just watching him like lose it And it was just like, it made me sad. It made me cry.
Yeah,
I was like, bro,
there's something about in shows and stuff where people are reacting to a death by being like hysterical and being like unreasonable, which is totally understandable. Like when they're making weird requests specifically, because here Kendall Roman says, "Is he in?" Pointing to the coffin, he's like, "Is he in there? Can we get him out?" And like
mhm,
that is like so emotional because like I've been at funerals where I've seen people like talking like that, and it's just so real, you
really?
know? Yeah,
I've been to one funeral
not
before.
specifically like that, but just like
Oh,
they're grieving
well,
in a way, and they don't want to acknowledge it that it's real.
right. I don't know. And honestly, yeah, it was really sad, but a part of me cried because of like how good the performance was.
Well,
I know it
yeah,
sounds
obviously.
weird, but like Brendan's performance in The Whale
Oh,
made me
yeah,
like cry.
yeah,
And this is a very similar thing where it's like watching someone just completely crushed. Like he loved his father, and his father did not love him the same amount back
hmm
as like what it looks like. Just like really hurts him. And it just like it's just the fact it's like the loss was so well depicted, I think, on Kieran's like just movements and actions. Because for the rest of the episode, he's like in his own bubble. He does not want
yeah.
to be like bothered and touched. And Kendall goes up there, saves the speech, like again, a living plus moment, like destroys it. But unfortunately, Roman's like bad, attempt was saw was seen by like hundreds
Everybody,
of power people. Yeah.
yeah.
And um whatever, when Shiv makes a speech, I wanted them why didn't Connor I wanted Connor to speak so bad. They didn't.
I don't think Connor wanted to speak.
Yeah, he did. He had a speech written up and he gave it to Shiv.
Oh, right. Well, Willow wrote it, and we've seen
That's
Willow's speeches before.
that's why I wanted to see it, dude. I wanted to see it so bad. I wanted to see another I super love you, super dad. Oh, but Connor didn't speak, and then they go to like the like tomb area. It's like this
Yeah,
insane $5 million like tomb, and
because he didn't
immediately
want to
it's
be
like
buried underground. Like he's held
yeah,
above ground.
and it has room for other graves. And Connor's like, "What do you think, guys? I wouldn't say no to a top bunk." Amazing. I'm like, yes. Uh, and then they go back, and Mencken is there, and Ken is talking to Mencken about like, hey, we should not do this deal type thing. And Megan's like, well, I'll see about it. And Roman shows up, and Megan just makes fun of Roman for just like crying during the funeral.
Yeah,
And Kendall's like, hey man, that's not cool. And then Greg shows up, and then immediately it becomes like everyone's showing up and just talking to the
just
president,
surrounding him because they all
and
want something from
Connor
him.
surrounds him too. And then Shiv takes him away and takes him to Matson, and basically was like, "Hey, listen, I what if you let the deal go through, but we make an American CEO?" And Shiv actually came up with this idea with Matson, and she was like, "And I think it should be me. I think Shiv Roy would be the good American CEO." Matson's like, maybe, maybe. So Matson brings up American CEO to Mencken, and he was like, basically, yeah. And then he says it like at the end of the episode that it's yeah, they're gonna do it. And then while it's Roman's sitting in the chair, like obviously just down, and Kendall's like, hey, you screwed it up, but that's okay. And is like just kind of being hard with his words, you know. I wouldn't have, probably used that phrasing necessarily to someone that's going through a hard time, but Kendall was being like brutally honest, and Roman is just like upset, and he leaves.
Hmm
As he's leaving, also you have like Carl and all them making fun of, or Hugo making fun of the video of Roman because it got leaked of Roman crying. And Jerry was there, and Jerry's like, "That's not cool." I was like, "Oh, there's still hope. Uh, there's still hope for them." And Roman walks out and basically goes to like the rioters and just gets beat up. Just
Yeah,
like starts insulting them, getting in their face or whatever. And crosses the police line and just like gets kind of what he deserved type thing. Not even he didn't deserve it then, but just like for being kind of a punk. Um, got beat up, and the episode ends of just like him kind of getting like washed away with the crowd.
Mm-hmm.
And like such a good ending,
It
good
is,
pre-ultimate.
yeah, it's such a like the acting is great in this episode, and the way they're able to like have the great performances and all that, and still have room to really set up an awesome finale and just like put all the cards in a line or the dominoes in place for everything
Right.
to, you know,
Mm-hmm.
go down in the next episode. It's like really expertly written, and
Yeah.
it's yeah, what do you say? But what has already been said.
Right. No, I mean I love this episode. It's hard to watch. Like, it's just sad.
Hmm.
Another like depression, like depression mindset filled episode. Just yeah. But this next episode though happens to be the end, the
Yes.
finale, the moment we've all been waiting for. After starting the show in 2021, I'm finally seeing the end, and it did not disappoint, in my opinion. I think
Yeah.
this is a perfect ending for, in my opinion, a perfect show. And I think it's one of the best endings I've ever seen as far as television goes.
Well, let's talk about that. Uh,
Do 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 do
I
do.
was thinking about it. Yeah. You want to go through your recap because
Sure, unless you want to do it.
well, you've been doing really good so far. You remember way more than I do. This
Okay,
episode is
we just watched this one.
this episode is gonna have I think the biggest discussion afterwards. So I'll definitely
Yeah,
contribute
well,
then.
because so where do I start? Probably the beginning. Um, I honestly can't remember how this episode begins. Um, it's all a blur. I'm gonna be honest.
Well, Roman got beat up at the end of the last episode. It begins with everybody getting ready for the vote,
Yes, because
because there's a vote on whether or not they should get
sell
bought
or
by
not.
Joko. Go Joko Bogo. Go
Yeah,
Joko
Goku is trying to
Bogo.
buy, so they're doing the votes, or they're going to, and Kendall's comparing his numbers and who they got. He's trying to call Stewie. Stewie's not answering him. He's kind of like frantically moving around, and it's made very clear that no one knows where Roman is. And I'm
Mhm.
like, oh, he's not dead. I know that. It'd be a really bad way to kill somebody off, like off screen. Um,
Yeah, who would do that? This show in episode 3.
well, okay, not like that. I mean, because we whatever. Shut up. I know you're joking. Um, anyways, and then Shiv gets a call from Carolina. Shiv's on top of the world. She thinks she's got the CEO spot. There's like no way she has it. I'm watching this and I'm like, there's
Yeah,
no way
she
she has it. Because
yeah.
the show also does a thing of like celebrating way too early. I'm like, goodness. So Shiv is very confident she's got it. She's chilling, been chilling. And she gets a call from Carolina, her mom, and says, hey, one of your siblings is here, and it's not Kendall.
What?
And she goes to wherever her mom is, and she sees little Roman, and Roman is wearing, so there's this Instagram account I follow called Succession Fashion, and they go through each episode and they pull out the leads outfits and basically how much it is to buy it, where you can buy it, and everything. And everything Roman has worn has been over $100. That's not a lot. Over like, because there's like socks and stuff, but his like suit jacket and stuff are like $600. His dress shirts are like 300, his
Hmm.
shoes and watches and stuff. His shirt is found at Walmart for $15. And it
Yo.
is amazing. And he's like a little kid. It is just like mom's there helping him out type thing, as much as Carolina can. Like she's not a good mom. Um, but she's still there. And Kendall finds out Shiv and Roman are there, and Kendall needs Roman. He needs to
Yeah.
know that Roman's on his side. So Kendall goes over there and immediately is like, Romy, hey, are you here? Uh, and he must have gotten that off of Revengers.
I was thinking he got
Sheldon.
it. Shoulder. I was thinking he got it off of The Simpsons. Homie.
Oh, Kermie. Wait, oh, I was thinking of the Muppets.
Yeah.
Kermie.
All
Um,
right.
man, all of these. The
The three titans of
anyways,
the entertainment
uh,
industry.
yeah. So, anyways, Succession, but Muppets. Would you watch?
Yes. What are you
Yes,
talking
I
about? Of
would
course I would
too.
watch that.
Anything with the Muppet. Like we said, like if we just need to normalize Muppets just being a part of like regular
Yeah,
television.
Muppets just as actors.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like I would, and like people treat them like just Roman like cursing out a Muppet would just be like
I'm
so
still
funny to me.
I'm still holding out for one of the Knives Out movies, just having Kermit play a character.
Dude,
Not as Kermit, but just
oh, but he's like credited as Kermit.
right, because they're always full of such recognizable people. Why not
That's
have
so
him
funny.
in there?
That's such a good idea. Anyways,
I think Isaac came
so
up with that, so credit to him. Yeah.
really
Speaking of
nice,
Isaac,
Isaac.
he has given me his opinion of this season, so I'm going to read that at the end of this.
Well,
Just a
good,
little paragraph.
good. Well, anyways, um, uh, Kendall shows up and he's like immediately business, business, business. Roman's not want to talk about it. He has stitches and stuff, and he's like done with it. There's so much good symbolism in this show. It's like this is him just not even being there, getting to wear what he wants to wear. It's like he's free. He even says in like the first episode, like this place was like a cage to me.
Hmm.
It's like I'm happy. Anyways, whatever. We'll get to the end. Um, and Shiv is like on top. She's gloating. She's like, I'm gonna be the CEO. I'm gonna be
Yeah.
better than you guys.
In an
I
hour and a
won.
half episode, she's
Yeah, at
talking
the
so
30
much
minute mark.
smack at like the 10 or 20-minute mark.
I'm like, I'm glad she's got confidence, but she clearly doesn't understand television.
As
Um,
soon as she said I won, she lost.
she
I knew she
lost.
lost. Yeah.
Um, and so anyways, basically they're all talking and it cuts to Tom and Matson at dinner. They're eating, and Matson basically tells Tom that I'm going to make, after interviewing him, basically says that he's going to be the American CEO after they acquire the deal. Um, and then Tom stands up, goes to Greg, and
Well, that's an important conversation because Tom just demonstrates to Matson that he's willing to be trampled on. He's just going to be submissive. He's going to do whatever he needs to do, and he kind of demonstrates that by Matson saying that, "Hey, I want to sleep with your wife. Are you cool with that?" And he's not even asking him; he's telling him. And then when Tom is cool with that, he's like, "Okay, this is somebody that I can just do whatever to, and he'll listen."
right.
And Tom, so used to playing that role, just fills it yet again, and that's how he lands Matson's spot idea for if the deal goes through, this will be my CEO.
Right. And basically Greg's life is dependent on what happens to Tom, because if Tom goes down, there's no need for Greg. Because they even say Greg is an overpaid assistant. He makes $200,000 a year apparently.
Mhm.
That's what they say. Anyways, so Tom finds out kind of good news, not I mean, whatever. We'll talk about if it is or not at the end. Goes to Greg and is like, "It's good." And that's all he says. And I thought they were gonna kiss. We're so close. Their hands were touching each other. Um, my bad. And it was close. It was close, but it didn't happen. Um, and that's all he says to Greg. So it was kind of like vague to Greg. And Greg's like, okay, goes to the bar, is having shots with Matson and his guys. It pulls out freaking like Google Translate and
Yeah.
starts translating their Swedish conversation, and finds out that Shiv is gonna be like screwed over in this deal. And he calls Ken. He's like, "Okay, are you ready? This is big news.
Mm.
You gotta promise me something." Basically, Greg wanted to be a part of the Four Amigos. Like he wants to sit at the same table, essentially, eat the same
Right.
food, make the same. Ken, assuming, promises it to him, and great move, I think, on Greg's part, honestly.
That's
Because
fantastic move on Greg's
once
part
again,
because no matter what
Greg is
happens, Greg
keeping
wins.
yeah, Greg is keeping both options open. So the source leaks type thing to Ken, and Ken confirms it and tells Shiv. Shiv is really upset. Finds out Greg told her. Or told Ken, whatever. And now Roman is glued into it once again by his siblings, and they're like, okay, well, fine, we'll do this. But there needs to be one head, one crown type thing. And they're talking about it. And Roman's like, well, Dad said it would be me before he died. And he's like, but whatever, I don't care. And that was the only time Roman probably said, like, was thinking, okay, if they say yes, I'm doing it. If not, I'm not gonna like push for it.
Yeah,
Roman, I think I think Roman was done with this after he got beat up. Like
yeah.
the end of
Got that
episode
reality
9.
check.
Yeah, at the end of episode 9, he was like, this is not for me. I don't want to do this. And Shiv obviously doesn't want it to be Kendall.
Yeah. She
And
doesn't even care if it's her. She just doesn't want it to be Kendall.
and they don't want it to be Kendall. Roman doesn't either, because they even say on the beach while Ken is swimming that they even contemplate the idea of screwing over Kendall, and they're like, "No, nah,
You
you
murdered
know."
me. You literally murdered me. They're
And
doing Kendall impressions.
yeah, oh yeah, they are doing Kendall impressions. uh, and then they go and they say, "Yeah, well, we thought about screwing you over," and they don't. And then we have such a wholesome moment between all three siblings where they
All
make a
three of
meal.
them except for Connor.
They make a meal fit for a king by
Yeah.
just making gross raw eggs,
They
some
blend a ton of
cheese,
food all over into this big blender,
Tabasco,
and
and Shiv
Shiv
spits in
spits in
it.
it. Yeah.
And this is actual drink that Jeremy Strong decided to drink.
Yeah, you got to stay in the character.
He could have drinking chocolate shake, and
I
would not have noticed.
From the very little that I've heard about Jeremy Strong's process, he reminds me a lot of Ed Norton's character in Birdman, where
Hmm.
everything has to be real.
But at least he's not Ed Norton.
Yeah,
It could be worse. If Ed Norton wants to be on an episode of the podcast, though,
I don't know. He might want
we'll
to edit
talk.
it and write it himself, so I don't know.
We'll talk about it.
We'll think about
Yeah.
it.
But no. So they make a meal fit for a king. They're all happy. It's all fun, and they're like, "Oh shoot, there's still 45 minutes left for this episode."
Yeah.
Um,
So yet
and-
again, way too early to something
yeah.
bad's gonna happen.
Yeah, so they go over to the house, Connor's house now, which is used to be Logan's. And Connor has a good idea with like these stickers, and you're gonna go through, you're gonna put stickers on you want. This is gonna be a way that you can bid for everything. And the
That Logan
more
left behind. Yeah.
yeah, and the most stickers that like, so if you were blue, the most things that have the like, so say you really wanted this phone and you got 4 blue stickers on it and everyone else didn't put like 1 sticker or something, you get this, you get the phone. So everyone's going around, they're doing their stickers, and Tom decides to tell Shiv that it's going to be him, he's going to be the CEO. And Shiv basically says like, oh, Craig leaked it, whatever. But when Shiv finds out, she's ticked. All the siblings leave, and Tom takes Greg into the bathroom, and uh like Tom hits Greg like he always does to Greg, because Greg doesn't fight back. Except this time,
He
Greg hits him with a
does.
nice 10 out of 10 slap on Tom. And
Definitely real slap.
I think that like honestly gave Tom like a okay, good job, minion.
Yeah.
Like, good job, Greg. They say if you're gonna make a Tomlet, you gotta break a few
Yeah, you gotta break
Gregs.
a few Gregs.
But this Greg grew into
A nice
it's not a Greglet anymore. It's
he's
a
a
Gregan.
Gregan.
Anyways,
A
um,
Gregster.
Gregster, a Gregory. Um,
Ooh,
yeah, no,
Gregory.
so they find out, and you're like, okay, that's not that. I mean, it was fun to watch, but it was sad too because you love these people. and it goes to the
Well, there's a
I'm trying
vote,
to
and it goes
the
six
meeting,
to
yeah,
six. Yeah.
because Stewie ends up answering, and when people start realizing that Shiv is now Team Ken,
Hmm.
then people start joining their side.
And
So now it's 6-6.
Roman redeems himself when previously he was intimidated by his dad and kind of went behind Kendall's back at the last minute. Roman finally stands up and votes Ken in, and then it's 6 to 6, and Shiv is the last one to vote, and she second guesses herself, and she asks to be excused and think about it,
Yeah.
and that sets
This
off
is the
Ken.
climax, the pinnacle of the episode. All emotion is here, and it is also we forgot to mention. So Ken like hugs Roman tight and like breaks his stitches intentionally, but
Oh,
I think
this
Roman.
actually, it's very important to point this out because I have a hot take, at least amongst our friend group. So we need
Okay.
to point out when Roman sees Jerry, he breaks down.
Mm-hmm.
He absolutely breaks down and he rips open his own stitches. So, like, I don't know. So he looks worse than like, because if he looked good, then people would be like, why isn't he taking CEO? So
Right.
he breaks down, he hurts himself, he kind of folds into himself and starts bawling. And then he, like, that was important to notice, mention. Fast forward back to
Right.
where we are now.
Yeah. So Shiv is in this room and she's emotional. She's like, you know, what does she do here?
Hmm.
She's thinking. And Kendall is upset. It is like yelling at her almost. And I'm like,
Immediately,
oh,
immediately proves her right that she shouldn't vote him
yeah. Also, to
in.
make matters worse, people can hear this conversation now. The
Yeah,
walls are glass, and people are hearing and looking at Ken yell and just like tear into her. And I have some suspicions about this too that I can kind of get into after we talk about this.
sure.
Um, but anyways, with that being said, Shiv is like, no, I'm not doing it. I can't do this. And she's like, you killed somebody. You can't do this. And Ken was like, I didn't. I mean,
I made it up.
I made it up. It was a
Yeah,
joke type thing. Like I did it as a thing. And Roman's upset. No one believes him. And it becomes a thing where
because the
like,
thing is, whether they believe him or not, if they don't believe him, then he just tried to make it fake. If they do believe him, then it was fake. So there's no winning after he says that.
right. And Kendall angrily like pushes his like hands on like his brother's face and
Trying
is
to
like
Mortal Kombat
like
fatality him.
squeeze his head like Game of Thrones. And Shiv walks out of the room. Kendall chases after her, and you find out Shiv voted that yes, pass the deal, and they lost. And Ken gets in the elevator. We don't know where he's going, if it's up or down,
Dude, oh my
and
word.
we think it's up. Uh,
This scene, like, following, they're taking pictures with all the people who struck the deal, and there's a wide angle that shows the window, and it would be a perfect shot for if Kendall were to fall behind them, but he doesn't. But
that
like,
was
just
intentional
it's
too. I
just,
promise
yeah,
you.
it's just in the back of your mind the whole time.
So we have Kendall possibly going to kill himself. Like that is on everyone's mind. I promise you. Like
Hmm.
how and where is he going to do it? Um, and Shiv is nowhere to really be seen. Like she's standing there, next to Tom, I think. And Roman goes in, signs it, walks out. He's angry, but I just think he just wants to get out. He's just
Yeah,
like annoyed. He just wants to like leave. And Kendall leaves, and we get like everyone's final moment. We see um Roman sitting at a bar drinking a martini, which is Jerry's drink, by the way.
mm.
Jerry's choice of drink. And we see um Kendall standing on a ledge. Not like on a ledge. He's like standing on like
He's on the ground, he's
he's facing water
looking
without his
over, yeah.
glasses. And we see Carl, or not Carl, it's his
Colin.
dad's Colin, his dad's bodyguard, standing by him. And Kendall goes and sits on the beach. I mean, and I did this in reverse order. Um,
It doesn't matter.
and then the basically Kendall sits down and just stares at the water with his bodyguard in the background, and then the scene of when Tom becomes CEO, Greg walks up to him and Tom puts a sticker on Greg's head and is like, "Don't worry, I got you."
Mm.
And that was amazing. I was so happy. I really was. And then in the car, Tom holds out his hand while they're sitting down, and Shiv puts her fingers in between his, and they sit down.
It's important that she doesn't do that. She puts her hand in his hand, but they don't hold hands.
Oh, you're right. Yeah,
Yeah.
because okay, and that's how the show ends.
Yeah.
Now we got a lot to talk about. Several things. Obviously, the big questions like who wins, and I think I know. I think I know.
I yeah, I have fully thought out
Like
thoughts for every individual character
I
on
see a lot of people saying Shiv wins. Shiv made a great move. She made the best move she could have made, but she did not win. Roman wins, but not by a choice he made. The person that like wins. Like hands down, obviously is Matson. No question there. But of everyone related, it is Greg. I think Greg
yes.
is the biggest
So
winner.
so I would like to comment on how I feel about everybody because I truly believe that except for Greg and Matson, this is a no-win scenario. Literally nobody wins.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Greg is also supposed to not win, but you kind of have to extrapolate it a little bit and you have to look into the future to see how he wins.
Right.
So Matson obviously wins because he gets the company and he gets to do whatever he wants because he has Tom as a puppet.
Right.
So then the next thing is like, oh, didn't Tom win? He got the spot. He has the spot in title only. He will never make a decision.
Mm-hmm.
He, as we've seen in seasons past, he will be a doormat, but he hates being a doormat. It crushes his spirit, and he feels no joy in it.
Right.
And that is his life now. Um, he wants a relationship with Shiv, and he finally gets that, but he doesn't get that.
Mm-hmm.
She's not there as his wife. She's there because he's a safety cushion. He's a safety net now. He has the spot, so now she will always be connected to the top dog, right?
Yeah.
And who knows, maybe her and Matson will live happily ever after together someday, but I doubt it.
Yes. And like, sorry, go ahead.
If you want to interject, that's fine.
I was gonna say that Shiv is in a better spot because she's pregnant. Also, because we forgot to mention anything with Connor. Connor and Willa.
I was gonna get there. Yeah.
Okay. Well, all right. We'll
Because
talk about that later.
they kind of don't really spend that much time with them either.
Not at all.
Um Shiv, people say Shiv won. She did not. She hated being Tom's wife. She's not fit to be, nor does she really want to be a mother. Um, and she the only way she got what she wanted is that Kendall's not the CEO, but she is stuck
Which
in a
is a win. Which is a win.
it's kind of yeah, but she's stuck in a relationship she hates, and now in the relationship that she had all the power, the roles have flipped, and that's why it's so important that they don't close hands because they're not in it together.
Mm-hmm.
Tom has Shiv in his hand, in the palm of his
In
hand.
the palm of his hand.
Yep.
Yeah, and I mean everyone. So like, we don't need to say how many times Matson won. Matson wins easily. All right, but Tom is literally there just to eat crap and
Mm-hmm.
just like do whatever Matson says. Tom is going to hate his life forever until he quits. But as soon as he quit, I mean, the only thing like good that comes of Shiv and Tom is that they've got a little Wamsgans cooking up.
Which
And
I don't think either of them is going to get. When normal people have kids, that's like a fulfilling experience. When these people have kids, we know what happens. We saw the whole show.
right.
It
But
doesn't end
especially
well.
with like two parents that don't,
Like each
that are
other.
there, that are only there for business reasons.
Right.
And it's like it's terrible. And the only good thing Tom has is Greg. I mean, just because Greg is
And
Greg,
I don't
Greg will
think
make you
Greg's going to
smile.
stick around
You
because
know,
of how he wins in the end. Okay.
yes, yeah, we
So,
need to talk
first
about
of all,
this.
Greg set himself up to be on the right side of history no matter who wins. If Kendall's on top, he's already made himself valuable to Kendall by telling him the valuable information about Shiv getting kicked out or whatever. Um, if Matson wins, he's got a built up relationship with Tom. So
Mhm.
no matter what, he wins. That being said, Tom does dock his pay to $40,000 a year, which
Which
might
is a
sound
$160,000 drop
yes.
from what he was making.
Which, by the way, I saw in a review for the finale that the only reason Tom does that is because he's mad at Matson for wanting to sleep with Shiv, and he's just, as always, taking it out on Greg because he has no one else to take it out on, and I believe that.
I love that.
um, that is a loss for at most 10 years, and then Ewan dies, and he gets to sue Greenpeace and get his fortune,
Right.
and then
And
he's
the thing
out
is
of there.
too, Tom definitely has money saved up. And you know what I mean? If
You
he's
mean Greg?
smart, I mean Greg,
Yeah,
he should have money saved up. He still has a job, chances are he does get some pay raise in the future. You know what I mean?
yeah,
But if we're looking at future, Tom's where he is if he doesn't kill himself first.
yeah.
And Greg is good until Ewan dies, but Ewan's old, Ewan, that could happen anytime.
Right. And then that's when
And
he gets his bajillions of dollars and all that stuff.
and then he's gonna sue the charity.
She's
Oh,
gonna sue the charity. And normally we wouldn't think that would work, but they said that he has a case, and so he'll probably get it.
right.
Um,
And then Tom if we look at everybody in 10 years, Tom's where he is if he doesn't kill himself. Same
mhm.
exact spot, disrespected, walked on, trampled over. Shiv is in a depressed mood, now has a kid that she may care for, maybe not, you know, at least she's the wife of the CEO, but I mean, she does kind of get to do whatever she wants to with, whatever. Roman in 10 years,
Well, I
living
don't
his
want to. I
best
don't.
life.
Okay, this is where we disagree because we didn't talk about Kendall and Roman. Kendall obviously loses. He's the biggest loser out of everything.
Yes.
And I will. What is important that the reason Colin is there is because Kendall and Roman have the same. No, Kendall and Logan ended with the same thing.
Yes.
They
Yes.
had no one and nothing but their bodyguard as their closest person, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
After so long and so much hard fighting, the only difference is Logan was at the top of the company, which didn't really matter in the long run because he died just suddenly, right? Didn't really get to do
Hmm.
anything with it. So all they have, both of them, is their bodyguard, and Kendall just has it the absolute worst. Roman, so you and Isaac and I think Sarah agreed with this. Just the circle, and did Riley probably agree with this too. The circle of friends that I watched this show with all said that Roman of the siblings gets out on top the most. I I really think that they're all pretty equally terribly left off because people are like, "Oh, Roman, he's out of it. He wanted to be out of it. He's out of it now." But I rewatched the final shot of him and he smiles for like 2 seconds and then he immediately the smile fades. And why I thought it was important to bring up him freaking out that Jerry when he saw Jerry is because that's how we now see how Roman reacts when he sees something he used to cherish that he doesn't have anymore. He's so unstable, he breaks down just at the sight of a lost relationship, right? So
Hmm.
now he doesn't have his siblings relationship anymore. Maybe him and Shiv are still cool, right?
Right.
But him and Kendall will never recover. He never really Connor and him were never really close. He doesn't interact with the company anymore. So he will forever break down at the sight of his family and that company. And he'll never be stable unless he fixes himself, which I don't think he could. Or he
I
would.
think
I don't think he
Roman
would.
is in the most optimistic spot though, because like I said, he's
A,
not.
a normal person would be, but he's so broken that I don't I'm not trying to say broken people can never get fixed. What I'm trying to say is
Oh,
Roman thinks that he's unfixable. And so I don't know if he'll ever he'll bring himself to the point to move past it.
I think Roman's a big family man,
And he
and I
doesn't
think
have a family anymore.
the hardest part is not having him and possibly Shiv. I don't know, but I think that's just going to be hard for him.
He
But
doesn't have
also,
his dad even
he
through the
was
company.
fine when he was with Carolina.
He
You
wasn't
know,
fine. That
I think he was.
no,
He
because
was on a good road to recovery, I
his
think.
mom doesn't care about him. His mom is so distant. The only reason she was bringing him all there was so Peter could pitch to them.
Oh yeah, that's true. I forgot about that.
She didn't even put in his eye drops
Yeah,
because
Peter had to do that.
yeah. So he is. It's your initial thought is that he's doing good, but he's really not. He's doing
But
just as bad as
also,
everyone else, and
what's
that's just
stopping him and Jerry to get back together?
Jerry doesn't like him. Jerry hates him. He fired her twice.
Once.
He was gonna fire her through Logan, and then he fired her from
Oh yeah,
himself.
you're right. You're right.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't think that. I just think Roman probably did burn the bridge with Jerry. I think Roman's fine. I think he is. I think it's gonna in 10 years. He's probably exactly where we left off. You know, just like.
but if that's exactly where I left off, he fleeting moments of happiness, surrounded by emotional outbursts of uncontrollable sadness.
But you have to think of what that's caused by. That's caused by while he was at Waystar working.
I
You
guess
know, I
I don't
think
know.
that without the thing causing your sadness, it's like if a stupid song is making you cry, you're gonna only cry when you're listening to the song. I feel like when you pause the song and you're not listening to it anymore, you can listen to a song that makes you happy.
I guess, but imagine if that song was your entire family. Um,
Yeah, true. Well,
I guess we'll just
anyways,
agree to disagree.
yeah.
But obviously Kendall loses. I think we went over. Oh, Connor. We forgot about Connor. So Connor, all all he's really wanted throughout the show is to just kind of do his own thing and get married to Willa and just have a nice life with Willa, right?
Hmm.
And he wants to be political and he wants to have a nice life with Willa, and he kind of gets that, but also doesn't. So Willa is married to him, but they're doing a long distance relationship. She will just be forever, I say mooching off of him. Like he's paying her, he's been paying her from the start. It's been like that forever. There's no question about if that's what she's in for or not. She will be forever getting paid by him to have a long distance relationship that they'll probably call each other every month, be like, "Hey, what's up?" And then he will just live his life in a as some forgotten politician in a country that they didn't think matters because they sent him to go work there. you know,
Yeah.
he doesn't have the
Yeah.
political influence he wants. He doesn't have the relationship that he wants. He also loses every. That's why, in my opinion, every single person lost, but Greg. And you really have to extrapolate for Greg to win.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, but also it's kind of what everyone deserved,
Yeah,
you know?
but
Everyone deserved it, and that's why it's so perfect. Like Greg wanted to get into this life. You know what I mean? It went from vomiting and mascot's eyes to, you know,
yeah,
I
it's
don't know.
just the claw. Everyone clawing at each other for power is what led to everyone getting
Yeah.
cut and bleeding at the end, and no one has it.
Weird. It's me by myself. Um, a few things I gotta say. First of all, not really sure why the camera quality is bad. Who cares? Okay. You may not even watch this. Cameron, I don't know. Either way, uh while Cameron and I were talking about Succession uh and recording, so we were going through the whole show. We were talking about so much, and my mind was on other things. I don't know. I just watched the series finale of Ted Lasso, so of course I have I got a lot going on my mind, and I remembered that I forgot to say a few things that I think we did a poor job covering. Surprisingly, I know we're perfect, but a thing that we just did not really cover on when talking about the last episode of the show, and that is the whole thing of basically towards the end of season 4 episode 10, the finale, you hear through some like news sources and through like different characters that Mencken or sorry, that the numbers from Wisconsin of like the fires and everything of all the votes that were lost are turning out to be more, they're getting an actual correct depiction of what the votes were. And it's looking like it's actually going to be Hernandez. And they never say that fully that it's going to be Hernandez, but it's definitely uh heavily implied that it might be. It's like obviously it left room for it was vague on purpose to like let you think. But what I think is that because I hear a lot of people say that Ted is, or not Ted, like I said, Ted Lasso, that Tom is a winner. And I think another reason why he's not a winner is because what I think is, yes, he's the CEO, but it's going to come out that Mencken is not actually president, and it's going to be Hernandez. And now Ted, or not Ted, goodness, Tom is going to get in some pretty, big trouble because he did make it very clear that he was the one that made the call. Now, Greg is too, but like we already discussed, Greg is pretty much has that amazing safety net of just whenever his grandpa dies, he gets that money and he'll sue. But also Matson will also, so ATN as a whole is going to take a huge hit when this news does come out about Mencken not being president. And that's going to be a huge big thing. So 18 will definitely take a huge hit, which will also hit Tom pretty hard, and Matson will also end up getting hard. And pause. Matson will end up getting hit pretty good because, like, it's his whole brand. He just spent like 190 something billion dollars on this. Either way, another thing is Karen and I said who we think the winners are. Willa is definitely the like biggest winner here, and we didn't really do an accurate description of what really happens. So Connor is, I don't know if he goes to Oman. He goes to some different country though, and he's going to be like some political leader in some different country, while Willa is going to stay and just live for free at Logan Roy's like old apartment mansion thing, while she's just selling everything and is going to basically use that. She's going to live by herself, well, maybe with other people, if you catch what I'm, saying here. So she has the endless, undying pocket of Connor, of him always paying her. She lives in a beautiful home, which is from Logan, and she will get to do literally whatever she wants, which is by, first of all, selling everything, making a bunch of money herself, putting all of the furniture that she wants in that will probably just be paid by Connor. And she will just get to write her own plays that never succeed, but hopefully one does for her. Either way, she's like the biggest winner here because she's not tied down incredible as much to Connor now. She gets to do whatever she wants. She'll probably get to just like honestly be with other people because Connor just won't know. And Connor's kind of too oblivious. So he's just always floating her paychecks. And yeah, so Willa is definitely the biggest winner here in my honest opinion. Other than that, yeah, I just kind of want to get on and mention about all of the Mencken stuff and how he's probably not going to be president, and how I think that also does hurt Matson and of course Tom. But yeah, honestly, sorry for the editor, also known as Cameron, for having to find wherever to put this. But I guess I'll just end it.
So I think I should tell you what Isaac said about this
Yeah,
season.
let's hear it. Let's hear it.
I said, if you want to send a little paragraph about your opinion, I'll say it at the end. And he said, season 4 input, the Roy family. Hey, let's go do business. Alexander Skarsgård, I'm willing to apply. Tom, I'm the boss. Alexander Skarsgård, I second that notion. Kendall cries, Roman cries, Shiv cries, Logan dies. And that is his input.
Wow, good job, Isaac.
Yeah.
I will say, since we're reading what people put, I downloaded Twitter today, and I was like, I am curious what the fans are saying, because this will be fun. And it enjoyed me of seeing celebrities like Daisy Ridley, Edgar Wright, James Gunn, Sean Gunn all talk about how much they love the show and how it's incredible. It's awesome. And I love seeing that, like, other creators, actors just getting behind project. I think it's super cool, like, that they're not even a part of. Like, I don't know why, but I just like that they're also a fan. Like, we all watched it the same week. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We all had to wait for it. But then I saw one, wasn't by anybody famous, and it said it's like, I don't know if you've seen the screenshot, but it's of Logan's back, Roman in his back looking, and Kendall in his back looking at the sea, and Shiv in her back walking through the whatever.
I haven't seen the screenshot, but I can imagine.
Well, it's like the recurring back shot, but they all happen in the same episode. And anyways, someone said, "Are you serious? This is like the end of an episode leading to a movie. If there's not a spin-off movie, I will be ticked. Give it to me now." Has 65,000 retweets and 700,000 likes.
Well, okay, that's why the fans shouldn't be writing things because you'll
People
always
need to like shut up.
yeah.
It's like not
Yeah,
everybody needs Twitter, guys.
here's the deal. That doesn't phase me because when you pay attention to Marvel reviews like I do, you'll see stuff like that times a million on the stupidity charts, where it's like, imagine if at the end of No Way Home, they're struggling to defeat all the bad guys, but then Iron Man shows up from another parallel universe. He's like, hey, kid, I got your back. It's
Or
like,
it's like the um Andrew is like Andrew Garfield's like hugging MJ or whatever, and then it's
the
Ghost
ghost
Emma
of Gwen
Stone.
Stacy. Gwen
Yeah,
Stacy.
yeah, it's just like hugging him also. It's like stupid stuff like there's no whatever. Obviously, I love Succession. I would have been happy if they did another season. I absolutely love how it ended. I think it's perfect, but I'm glad they're ending because of the writer's strike too. I'm glad that's not gonna affect the show. But like I just think that this is pretty perfect and we shouldn't mess with it anymore.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see. I would love something similar,
Well,
its own story.
when we were watching, I said we could have an El Camino like movie called Everything's Coming Up Greg, where a few years down the line, Ewan dies and he gets all his money from Greenpeace.
Breaking the Gregs.
Yeah.
Or don't count all your Gregs before they hatch, a Greg story.
Yeah.
It's just I think Succession is perfect. We don't need to touch it at all,
Yeah. I can't wait for
No
5 years for it to get rebooted.
into a movie.
And yeah.
Oh, that would be terrible. No,
Uh
it's incredible. I'm excited to see what Jesse Armstrong and Will Ferrell make.
I'm excited to see Matthew McFadden in Deadpool 3.
Yes.
Dude,
Um,
I'm excited to see all these actors moving forward.
yes, like this should be so they've already rumored Jeremy Strong of being the next Stuart Little, which I'm excited for.
Yes.
So that's my hype moment. No, honestly, everyone is gonna be so good. I'm excited for Sarah Snook and Zach Galifianakis to be in a movie together.
I
I
didn't
think
know that was a
that'll
thing.
be
But
insane. But Kieran Culkin needs roles. Like, get him and stuff now. Uh, uh, dude. So, sorry, I said that a lot. The Emmys that are gonna be coming up for a drama series, I think Succession has it in the bag. I think you are insane if Succession doesn't win. It's going up against like Better Call Saul and a few other shows.
here's the deal. It's
But
going to be going up against Barry as well, doesn't it?
no,
Because aren't
Barry's in the
drama and
comedy
comedy?
section.
I thought drama and comedy were in the same thing.
No, it's musical and comedy.
Oh, okay. Which that
Drama
doesn't
is
make
its
sense to me either. But
yeah. But drama's in its own thing. I think it's musical comedy, but I know comedy and drama are different because same thing with Golden Globes. Michelle Yeoh won for comedy movie and Kate Blanchett won for drama movie.
okay.
Anyways, that being said, um Kieran Culkin is going for the lead actor role for the Emmys, and I think he has it in the bag. I think it's like crazy good. If Anthony Starr is going for it, I think that's honest. You have to think he's going up against Pedro Pascal, Bob Odenkirk, possibly Anthony Starr. I don't know if Anthony's supporting or not, but um that's a good race.
Yeah, and
That's
I haven't seen The Boys or Better Call Saul, so I wouldn't be able to make an input on
I,
that.
I don't think Bob Odenkirk has a chance. They might give it to Pedro, but I think easily Kieran's got it. You know,
If it's
I,
just between Joel and Roman, I'd give it to Roman.
right. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Sarah Snook will be going for, I mean, she'll get uh supporting actress. Dude, Matthew will probably go for Matthew won it last year for supporting actor. I could see him winning it again.
Yeah.
I don't think Nicholas Braun wins, unfortunately,
No. He had
but
his
this
chance with Sky
show,
High, but
yeah, or Minutemen. Don't
yeah.
forget, everyone sleeps on Minutemen.
I've never seen Minutemen.
Dude, I love it so much. It's so
Yeah.
not good.
Patreon exclusive episode Minutemen out now. Uh,
Either way, I think that's it. I don't
Think we're
have
good.
anything else.
Come back next week for our Barry episode. And in that episode, we are going to discuss whether we thought Barry or Succession ended better. So,
I know what I think.
I know, but what did you think?
And to answer that question, you have to check out next week's episode.
Yeah.
Also, tell everyone about this podcast.
You want
Just
to
follow us, subscribe to us on YouTube,
Yeah.
follow
all
the
of
Spotify, listen
uh
to it for more than a minute.
do those things. Yeah, well, yeah, do those things. Listen to it all the way through. Why don't you?
Yeah, share it a few times, please.
Um,
Well,
find us in our real lives and give us money in person.
as we always say this episode,
Keep thinking.
keep